A monster with countless blood-red eyes roared under a gloomy sky. In the year 2045, Earth was facing terrifyingly brutal creatures. Many soldiers who joined the battle lost their lives. They were no match for those razor-sharp claws. The colossal monster stared down at the fallen on the battlefield. At that moment, a young man was pale with fear in the face of its assault. Is this the end? He collapsed to his knees before the sharp claws, as if surrendering to his fate. But unexpectedly, another young man charged forward, using his sword to sever the monster's tentacle. The creature stared in shock at the gaping hole in its body. Shortly after, the enraged monster aimed its sharp claws directly at the young man. He frowned, unleashing a flurry of sharp slashes that diced the tentacles into pieces. The monster refused to give up, swinging a massive tentacle right where the young man stood. He barely had time to look up at the massive object descending upon him. The young man immediately pulled out his gun and fired directly at the tentacle. This was the commander of Earth's last line of defense. Sung turned and said, "Get up, we're moving forward." The man he had just saved finally came to his senses. He quickly raised his gun and fired repeatedly at the monster, while Sung advanced with a large rifle. And now, after endless battles, only a few survivors remained. With a grim face, Sung braced his rifle. He knelt on one knee and took aim. Our target is right in front of us. Suddenly, a golden magic circle materialized in front of the monster. Sung was stunned by this bizarre sight, silently wondering, "What is that?" Before he could find an answer, he was suddenly pulled inside. A moment later, his comrades saw that Sung had vanished and frantically called for his commander. Meanwhile, in a strange space filled with chains, a mysterious voice echoed, "Answer the summons, Sung." Suddenly, countless chains wrapped around his neck, making it harder and harder to breathe. Sung, his body bound and suspended in midair, fearfully watched the murmuring crowd before him. Unbelievable. We actually succeeded. So this is the legendary hero from another world. He glanced at the iron on his wrists, wondering, what are these glowing chains? Where am I? Just then, a robed man lowered his hood, stepped forward, and spoke, "Hero from another world, welcome to the Empire." He could only listen in silence to these strange words. The man stroked his beard and said earnestly, "I know this is sudden, but please, defeat the Demon King and save our world." Sung frowned in confusion. "Wait, Demon King? What are you talking about? Where am I? Who are you people? This is no time for games. I should be in Korea." Sung immediately threatened them, his palm glowing with power. Silence. A second later, lightning struck Sung as a restraining spell was activated. The man controlled the magic in the air and offered a warning. "Stop resisting. If you behave while I'm being civil, this magic won't harm you." Sung, gasping for air with tears in his eyes, silently cursed. "Since when were you civil?" Then, the man gestured and made his plea. "Please, destroy the Demon King." He tossed a sword into the magic circle on the floor, emphasizing each word, "and save our empire. If you agree, we can return you to your world. Will you accept this offer?" Though phrased as a question, as soon as he finished, everyone there glared daggers at Sung. He pressed his lips together, his brow furrowed, caught in an impossible situation. Sung had no other choice but to accept. "Fine, I'll do it." And just like that, Sung was summoned to a completely foreign world to fight as the Empire's otherworldly hero. He worked relentlessly, embarking on countless expeditions. Time and again, Sung swung his sword, slaughtering hordes of beasts, completing every one of the Empire's countless missions. 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. He sacrificed his youth to finally slay the Demon King Vanlore. Was Sung finally free? Every night, he dreamed about what he would do when he got home. But then, the man requested, "Sung, I will inform you of your next mission." Sung stood behind him and complained, "That's not what you promised." The man took a sip of tea and replied, "Saving the Empire involves more than just defeating the Demon King. There are still those who oppose the unification of the Empire. They must be eliminated. I can't let the opposition rise up. You just need to handle this threat. Kill him, the Night Kingdom of Teonia, and you will be free." Sung glanced over, the corner of his mouth curling up. "Help us a little more." Although Sung wanted to resist, he was controlled by the shackles around his neck. What choice does a dog with a chain around its neck have? The bastards. So the flames of war erupted everywhere once again. When will this ever end? In the Night Kingdom of Teonia, Sung and Badeo were now crossing swords. After a while, he successfully plunged his sword into him. Badeo cried out in pain, "You! I can't believe you're so foolish!" He pulled out the sword, his voice listless. "I had no other choice." "I'm sorry, Badeo," he questioned. "The hero from another world, Sung, right?" Badeo, drenched in sweat, continued, "Don't apologize to me, Sung." He slid down the castle wall, his next words stunning him, "Because soon enough, you'll be discarded too." Sung sighed, raising his palm and muttering, "It's over." I can finally go home. Unbeknownst to him, Brandon Book was already behind him, when suddenly two golden threads wrapped around Sung's neck, startling him. The old man approached, plunging a sword into Sung's chest before he could react, a dangerous voice ringing out, "Well done, hero from another world." Sung bent over, coughing up a mouthful of fresh blood as he called out Count Brandon Book's name. The old man smirked. "Sung, you have fought wonderfully over the years. You have served just like a loyal hunting dog of the Empire. I, the great general and holy knight, acknowledge that." His eyes widened as he struggled to curse. "You despicable hypocrites, so it was all a lie. You never intended to let me go home." Brandon Book pulled the sword from Sung's body, causing fresh blood to spurt out, and questioned, "Why would we do that? You're just a hunting dog that only knows how to bite." As his body collapsed to the ground, the old man gloated mockingly. "Farewell, Sung." With a hazy gaze, he cursed inwardly. "I knew they wouldn't let me go so easily. But damn it, I will never forget this humiliation." Suddenly, a flash of light emanated from Sung's body. He held a grudge in his heart. "I will make this damn empire pay with its utter destruction." That night, one life ended and another began. At that moment, a newborn baby had just opened his eyes. A cheer rang in his ears. "Congratulations, madam, it's a boy." The woman, drenched in sweat, reached out to hold the tiny hand and whispered, "My dear child, I am your mother." Sung, in the body of the baby Dale, now looked at the couple before him in surprise. "Who are they? I've seen these faces before." He squeezed his eyes shut as he was caressed, and soon he realized. "I remember now," Sung thought to himself. "That man is the strongest necromancer and dark mage on the continent, Duke Luan, and this place must be the Empire's center for forbidden arts, Necropolis, where the Black Tower is located. The one-time-use resurrection stone has been activated. It was something he had hidden, a forbidden item he prepared to break free from his hunting dog shackles. And the body he was reincarnated into, it was all fated. But he never expected to be reborn as the eldest son of the Duke Luan family, one of the most prestigious noble families in the Empire. Dale smiled with amusement. "So I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth this time, huh?" He thought of Han and Brandon Book. "When I grow up and master necromancy, I will wipe out all those imperial bastards." Te felt a bit bewildered. The baby wasn't crying at all. The wet nurse rubbed her chin thoughtfully. "How strange. His breathing is clear, yet he makes no sound." The lady was also worried. "Could you check his condition carefully?" Dale pursed his lips arrogantly. "I'm not a child who cries so easily." The wet nurse held him in her arms and checked him over. "His breathing is stable, so there's no need to worry." Te frowned and asked, "Is a child who doesn't cry considered a bad omen?" The wet nurse reassured her. "Don't worry, my lady, but if you really want the young master to cry..." The wet nurse gave his bottom a hard slap, smiling brightly as she said, "You can spank his bottom until he cries." Dale was stunned by the sudden blow, feeling both pain and embarrassment. The two of them saw his pale face and laughed. "What a stubborn little guy. He must have inherited your strong will." The couple looked happily at Dale. She reached out her hands, calling, "Here, let me." He, pale-faced, cursed inwardly. "You fool, your son is perfectly fine." Tay then held him face down, raising her arm high. Dale squeezed his eyes shut, silently cursing as he braced for another blow. But to his surprise, she gently rubbed his little bottom. Dale took a deep breath, taking in everything around him. The moment the warmth of her gentle hand touched his skin, an image of Sung flashed in his mind. Suddenly remembering something, he lifted his shirt, tending to his own wound and muttering, "When was the last time I felt such warmth?" In his past life, Sung was always alone, having to take care of himself. Now, he was Dale. The soft, slightly trembling hand of the young noblewoman, his new mother, radiated a love he hadn't experienced for years. Sung, who had never shed a tear, couldn't hold back his tears now that he was self-aware, and he sobbed uncontrollably, just as a newborn baby should. Luan, sitting on the bed, spoke softly. "It's been 8 years since Dale was born, hasn't it? Time really flies." Elena nodded in agreement. "That's right. Is Dale still in his room?" "He's never been far from his books since he turned 4. He took her hand affectionately. "He must take after his mother. It seems he's starting to take an interest in magic." Elena suddenly tucked her hair behind her ear and asked, "Oh, you still remember, don't you? The vow between us." He thought of Dale reading his book and continued, "You mean the promise not to pass on spirit summoning magic to Dale?" she said cheerfully. "You still remember?" Luan affirmed firmly. "Of course I do. Don't worry, my love. Dale's birthday is tomorrow, and I'm preparing a gift for him." Suddenly, a knock on the door surprised him. Who could be visiting at this hour? Just then, a maid burst in frantically, shouting, "Your Grace, in the study!" "It's young Master Dale!" Her next words left the couple utterly astonished. Shouts echoed everywhere. Dale hurriedly pushed the door open and asked, "Are you all right?" The boy was kneeling on the floor, magical energy radiating from him. Dale turned his head and called out, "Mother! Father!" Elena clung to her husband's clothes in fear, stammering, Dale. She rushed over to check on him. Are you hurt anywhere? What on earth happened? Dale grimaced, but still answered politely. I'm fine, mother. Meanwhile, his father raised his arm with a serious expression to check the spiritual energy. I can feel magical power lingering in the air. Dale is only 8 years old. Nearby, Elena was still deeply distressed. Dale struggled, saying, Please let me go. Suddenly, his father clasped his hands behind his back and approached Dale with a menacing aura. Were you the one who released the magical power from your body? The boy was terrified. I knew father would find this strange. I'm done for. I didn't expect my magic to awaken so soon. Dale stammered, trembling, while panicking inwardly. If I don't answer quickly, he'll suspect my identity. But contrary to what he thought, Luan actually smiled gently. He patted the boy's head and praised him, as expected of my son. It's a shame I can't teach you spirit control magic. This made Dale very curious. He can't teach me spirit control magic? Then what about my revenge? Elena, who was standing nearby, interjected. The servants will clean this up. You should go back to your room now. He sighed and complied helplessly. Yes, mother. Dale then hugged the book to his chest and left. At the same time, Luann approached her and said, Elena, I've just thought of a gift for Dale. A while later, at Dale's birthday party, the guests in the hall were whispering excitedly. Has the Count arrived as well? It is the young master's birthday after all. Of course, I had to be here. It seems all the nobles from the Dark Duke's territory have gathered. When will the young master make his appearance? Indeed, it's been a long time since we've had such a grand banquet. The host of the party, Dale, sat in the second-floor banquet hall, listening to the chatter. It seems the party is starting later than planned. It's certainly lively. He felt incredibly tired, not expecting so many people to gather just to celebrate his birthday. Perhaps because I was used to being treated coldly as a hero, the way they treat me like a young master now still feels awkward. But the incident with the collapsing desk the other day still bothers me. I can't believe that just by remembering my time as a hero, my magical power would explode so forcefully. No matter how I think about it, with this much power, it's a real shame to miss out on spirit control magic. How am I supposed to convince father? I vaguely heard that he's already thought of a gift. Maybe I should take this opportunity to ask him to teach me spirit control magic instead of a gift? No, that would probably still be too difficult. Just then, Elena, in an elegant dress, approached, waving and calling out. You've been waiting a while, haven't you, Dale? He called out happily to his mother. She smiled brightly and replied, Happy 8th birthday. Dale looked at the fully cloaked person standing next to Tay and asked curiously, Who is that person behind you? Tay gestured, reminding him, Go on and say hello, dear. The mysterious person slowly began to pull down their hood. This is an elder of the Blue Magic Tower, a master of water-based magic, the wise lady Sphia. Tay revealed, She will be your instructor from now on. Dale was surprised. Sphia was also warm, saying it was her pleasure to help. She gave him a wink and whispered, Happy birthday, son. An elder from the Blue Tower was invited to be his teacher? Does this mean Mother wants me to learn water magic, which specializes in defense and support? Just as I thought, she doesn't want me to learn dark magic. Sphia opened her arms and spoke. Dale, may I have a private word with you for a moment? He answered shyly. Yes, Lady Sphia. Shortly after, they were, standing in a place covered in white snow. Sphia's voice rang out. I'm not sure if you've heard this, but I've been tasked with teaching you water magic. Don't you feel disappointed? There must be another type of magic you'd rather learn, right? Dale asked, surprised. How did you know? She raised a finger and said, It's perfectly understandable to want to learn necromancy, your father's dark magic. However, the Dark Duke's marriage vows are known throughout the entire empire. When the Dark Duke proposed to Lady T, she was terrified of his brutal reputation. So, to put her at ease, he swore an oath not to pass down his dark legacy to his children. I still remember the wedding day, when the elders of the Dark Tower cast aside their usual black robes and all wore pure white to bear witness to that vow. Because their marriage is bound by such a sacred covenant, you cannot learn dark magic for the time being. But I will eventually find a way to persuade Lady Tay. Are you willing to learn under my guidance for now? Dale asked, confused. But aren't you wary of dark magic or necromancy? Especially since you're an elf, a race that respects the laws of nature and isn't resurrecting the dead an unnatural act? Sphia laughed. That's an interesting point. Then what about priests, who save those on the brink of death? Are they acting in accordance with nature's will? He listened silently to her perspective. In my eyes, necromancy and healing magic are not so different. Dale suddenly realized that Sphia was far from being typically prejudiced. Perhaps she would be a teacher who exceeded all his expectations. She suggested, Then let's begin our lesson. I heard you managed to form a small fragment of a mana circle a few days ago. Our first goal will be to expand that fragment and complete a first circle mana circle. Dale was completely surprised and looked up. Oh, a first circle? Coincidentally, most of the magic books I've read recently require reaching that level to practice their spells. This is the perfect opportunity to create my first circle. Sfia began her instruction. Place your hand over your heart and concentrate. He followed her instructions perfectly. Yes, master. Then Dale slowly opened his eyes. This was a world different from Earth, a world overflowing with mana. However, with the exception of ancient beings like dragons, directly controlling raw mana is impossible. That's why I need a mana circle in my heart, a filter-like structure to refine raw mana before it can be used. It gathers the scattered fragments of mana around the heart and assembles them into a complete circle, then makes that circle rotate steadily around the heart. Dale felt the circle enveloping him and whispered, "So a mana circle is a pathway to engrave the flow of mana onto the heart? I just need to do exactly what Master says." On the outside, she was still lecturing. Starting with the first step, practice controlling the flow of mana to rotate around your heart in a steady, sequential manner. This process usually takes at least 1 month, so don't be too hasty. Dale opened his eyes, looked down at his palm, and mumbled. Instantly, a blue circle appeared, astonishing even him. "I did it, Master!" Sfia was stunned, equally surprised, and exclaimed, "What?" She stared in disbelief at the small hands controlling the mana. A child who just started his training was able to create a circle in a matter of minutes? If this child truly possesses an innate gift, then... Sfia covered her mouth with her hand and asked curiously, "Can you try releasing the mana along that circle?" Dale immediately closed his eyes, gathering energy into the circle as he began to speak. "I'll give it a try. Master, he's creating a magic source from pure thought. Normal children would be exhausted just by releasing mana through the circle. At this rate, I won't just fail to get my revenge on the Empire. I'll struggle to even keep up with the Black Duke. In my past life, I only used mana imprints carved into my flesh to cast destructive spells for combat, but this time is different. This body inherited the abilities of the Master of the Black Tower, allowing it to absorb mana naturally. Maybe I can learn more than just water-based magic. Perhaps I can master other types as well?" A stream of energy started to course through my body. Dale told himself, "Okay, focus. Channel the mana flowing into me out through my fingertips and form a deadly shard aimed right at the Empire's throat." Once enough mana had gathered, he opened his eyes, pointing 2 fingers forward. An image of Sung from his past life materialized, and in an instant, Dale formed a dazzling, sharp shard of ice. Sfia was stunned. She swallowed hard, thinking to herself that normally, when mana is compressed inside the body and then released, its shape tends to fall apart. But he had crystallized the mana, creating a nearly perfect sphere of ice. Since he focused so much on the shape, its destructive power might be lacking. From a distance, she meticulously observed his every move. After completing the spell, Dale sent the shard of ice flying straight into a nearby ancient tree. It immediately created a blinding explosion that snapped the tree in half. Sfia turned, staring in a daze as the ancient tree crashed down into the white snow. Tension began to creep onto her face. Sfia glanced at Dale, thinking doubtfully. It was sharp and hard enough to pierce right through the tree trunk. This wasn't the kind of precision a mere 8-year-old could demonstrate. Just who was this child? At that moment, he raised his hand and gave a little wave, flashing a bright smile. Sfia knelt, lightly touching the splintered wood, and exclaimed, "Good heavens. I thought he had only just reached the level of manipulating mana, but he was able to release that energy and perfectly infuse it with the ice element. Even though it was just a beginner-level spell, he managed to cast it, perfectly absorbing the surrounding cold energy." Seeing her reaction, Dale asked timidly, "Ma'am, did I do something wrong?" Hearing this, Sfia turned back with a faint smile. She looked at his apologetic face and thought, for an innocent child to unconsciously create such a thing, the sophistication of his technique was truly extraordinary. Sfia pictured the mana swirling in the air, converging, and accelerating to form a sharp shard of ice. His face before the magic circle flashed in her mind. Those 3 steps are the golden ratio for military-grade magic. Sfia stared at Dale, who was now just tapping his index fingers together, and wondered, could he really have unconsciously replicated and cast a complete and deadly spell like that? He called out again. "Ma'am?" Sfia unconsciously raised a hand and stammered, "Oh, it's nothing." Now I understand why the Black Duke was so regretful. A short while later, she was drinking tea in a large room. Luann's voice echoed, "You're saying you can't teach Dale? Is that right? Why?" A child who can form a perfect circle in mere minutes is precisely the kind of talent that needs to be nurtured, don't you think? Sfia interjected. The moment young Master Dale successfully formed the circle, he immediately cast a complete and deadly spell. Hearing this, he was stunned speechless. She explained, "Imagining someone being hit by such an attack, it's hard to believe it was created by an 8-year-old boy. A spell that contains the golden ratio of military-grade magic. An image of Dale's innocent face after felling an opponent flashed through her mind, and she stated firmly, "Your Grace, young Master Dale has a gift for killing." Luan stroked his chin and murmured, "As the Elder of the Blue Tower, a place that reveres the creed of non-killing, are you using that as your reason to refuse to teach him?" Svea took a sip of her hot tea and replied, "Not at all." She thought of how happy Dale looked with the magic in his hands, then continued, "It is precisely because of that I want to teach him myself and guide that child down the right path." He frowned in confusion, saying, "Then there's no reason for you to refuse at all." Svea suddenly dropped a statement that hit a nerve, causing his face to pale. The Black Duke's black magic. It seems young Master Dale already has a type of magic he wants to learn. I have heard of your love story, Your Grace. I respect the promise you made with Lady T. But that doesn't mean you have the right to decide your child's future, especially not for a young master with such extraordinary talent. Your Grace. At the same time, Dale was eavesdropping outside the door, but he was getting gloomy. I can't hear what they're saying clearly. Dale slid down the wall, guessing, but they're definitely talking about me. He recalled Svea's shocked expression and was surprised, not expecting his first spell to be so powerful. Even Miss Svea was extremely astonished. I'll have to be more careful about controlling my power from now on. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared right in front of him, making Dale look up. His mood changed in an instant, and he shouted happily, "Hey!" Dale looked at the man smiling awkwardly in front of him and cheered, "Uncle Helmet." The man just scratched his head and asked, "What are you doing here?" The boy stood up and questioned back, "And where did you just come from?" Helmet reached out and hugged Dale, laughing, "Fulfilling my duty to protect the duchy, of course." He lifted the boy high up and recounted excitedly, "I just wiped out a horde of terrifying monsters." The boy guessed with excitement, "So you just cleared a dungeon?" Dale's eyes suddenly became pensive, like an adult lost in deep thought. In this world, the appearance of dungeons or the spread of demonic beasts are matters of national importance. Ever since the time of the Demon King, the damage caused by these monsters has been significant, so the knights of this territory must conquer the unexplored dungeons within the Demon King's domain. Their main mission is to eliminate the demonic beasts pouring out of the dungeons, especially in the Duchy of Saxon, where the situation is much more severe than in other territories. He remembered his past life as Sung, blaming himself as the cause of it all. In his previous life, after the hero from another world defeated the Demon King, the Duke of Saxon was granted the Demon King's lands and ordered to subjugate the demonic beasts there to make it imperial territory. Back in the present, Dale looked away in disgust, sighing to himself. In professional terms, it's called cleanup duty. As soon as he was put down, he urged, "Uncle Helmet, please don't get hurt." The man laughed teasingly. "Is the young master worried about me?" Suddenly, a voice rang out. What a heartwarming sight. The two turned their eyes toward the person who had emerged. Dale called out softly, "Father." Helmet stammered loudly, "Your Grace, the Duke." The man crossed his arms and looked over, praising, "You've worked hard on this expedition, Helmet." At that moment, Tay and a few maids arrived, and she said cheerfully, "Oh, is everyone gathered here?" The three of them glanced over. The boy wondered curiously, "Why is Mother here?" Tay raised a hand to her mouth and called softly to her son. She quickly bent down, caressing his cheek in praise. "I heard you successfully cast a magic circle, didn't you?" "Oh, my dear, you're so brilliant," Luan added. "Congratulations, Dale." Tay turned back and winked at him. "If there's anything you desire, just tell your father." This statement made the boy ponder. Would it be too scheming if I said I wanted to learn necromancy? What do children this age usually want? After a moment of thought, Dale casually dropped a line that stunned the two of them. "I want a little sister," Luan said awkwardly. "All right, I'll do my best." The boy giggled. "Yes, father." The nearby soldiers couldn't help but laugh at the situation. One soldier turned to gently remind Helmet, "Please don't laugh, Captain." Time passed, and soon, the full moon reached its zenith, illuminating the entire area. Dale lay sprawled on his bed, complaining to himself, "Having to act innocent at this age is such a pain. I must be a little tired from using magic earlier." Just as he drifted into a dream, his eyes from his past life shot wide open, filled with terror. The scene of Brandon Book stabbing Sung from behind resurfaced. The old man's voice echoed, "Nice to see you again, Sung. How long has it been?" The boy choked out in pain. You. Brandon Book twisted the knife, driving it deeper, lifting Sung's entire body up. "Humans are so deceitful, aren't they? How could you change so quickly? Are you happy? Living with kind parents in that warm house, with a full belly and a warm back, you must have thought revenge wasn't important anymore, right?" The old man radiated a murderous aura, emphasizing every word. "The Empire will find you, Sung. They will hunt you down until they finish you, until every trace of you has vanished from this world." Terrified, Dale suddenly woke up, his breathing becoming extremely difficult. At the same time, a surge of magic appeared right in his chest. It began to build up in Dale's chest, making him extremely uncomfortable, his heart feeling like it was about to explode. Is this the legendary phenomenon of a mana overflow? Dale clutched his chest with one hand, struggling to go outside and cursing under his breath. Those damn Imperial bastards, will they really never let up? Thinking that getting some cold air outside would help, he hugged himself tightly, panting and wondering why it was only getting worse. Suddenly, Sphia appeared right behind Dale. She spoke. "You seem to be in a lot of pain," startling Dale completely. He turned to look at the familiar face, questioning, "Miss Sphia?" She was generating a source of magic and then suddenly realized a mana overflow? What a gifted child, but I still can't shake this uneasy feeling. Then she reached out her palm and gently touched Dale's chest. Her magic directly dispersed the energy building up inside him. Sphia, with her eyes closed, worried silently. If one day this child's magic becomes tainted with malice, I fear it will be beyond saving. Meanwhile, Dale was still naively looking at the small circle of mana on his hand, thinking to himself that the mana overflow was gone. A moment later, Sphia called out to Dale. He looked up in confusion and replied, "Yes?" She glanced to the side, explaining, "The essence of magic is a mirror that reflects the soul. Therefore, even with the same spell, each mage expresses it with their own unique nuance. Your magic carries the power to steal life, an extremely dangerous ability. That's why I feel truly fortunate to be the one to teach you, Dale." Taking the book from Sphia, he asked curiously, "Ma'am, what is this?" He looked questioningly at the mana surrounding it. "This is a magic book on necromancy." She smiled brightly, saying with a hidden meaning, "I think our meeting was perhaps destined." Dale naively listened to Sphia's words, "Happy birthday." Dale suddenly rushed forward and hugged her tightly, which surprised Sphia a little. She laughed teasingly, "You're still so naive and ridiculously cute, young master." A few days later, on the plains outside the North Gate, Dale stood behind her and asked in surprise, "A rabbit?" Sphia looked at the white rabbit and calmly replied, "That's right. Try to remember the time you went hunting with your father." He quickly summoned magic in his hand, replying, "Yes, ma'am." The white rabbit turned to look at the two of them just then, bewildered, not knowing what was about to happen to it. At this moment, Dale had created mana in his hand, swinging his arm back to gain momentum. He aimed accurately and threw the ice shard, which shot towards the white rabbit. Mysterious circles of dark energy immediately appeared where the two of them were standing. Sphia watched his small hands intently, thinking to herself, "To strike so forcefully, yet his fingertips don't tremble at all." Then she spoke, "Dale, even though it's the same type of magic, it is incredibly diverse, depending on the caster. Do you know why?" Dale answered honestly, "I'm not quite sure yet, ma'am." Sphia explained, "Because magic, after all, is a mirror that reflects one's inner self. It's using mana to manifest what is in one's heart. Therefore, in magic, one cannot hide the landscape of their soul." After hearing this, Dale was completely silent, a drop of sweat trickling down his cheek. She closed her eyes, letting out a cold breath. Even the names like fire, wall, or other incantations are just ways to help stabilize one's state of mind. The magic of the magic towers is not much different. The red tower reveres order maintained by power, while the blue tower values the order of harmony. The ideology each tower pursues is reflected in the form of their magic. The magic system is established according to the principles of each tower. Besides the red tower and the blue tower, there are also the black tower, the white tower, and the green tower. After speaking, Sphia smiled gently, exhaling a puff of white smoke. However, Dale still had a confused look on his face, leaving her feeling a bit helpless. "It's probably still too early for a child like you to understand these things." Dale immediately turned his attention to the unfortunate white rabbit, thinking to himself as his mana surrounded it, the most basic technique in necromancy is turning a corpse into a slave. It's a magic that uses mana to allow the caster to control the dead. He became extremely serious, focusing on his task. At this moment, a series of threads shot out from his hand, connecting to points on the rabbit, its head, spine, knees. The mana threads must be tightly connected to those points. A second later, the rabbit's blood-red eyes shot open. Seeing his success, Sphia praised him. "Well done, Dale. Can you proceed to the next step?" While controlling it, he replied, "Yes, ma'am." Then Dale poured all his strength into creating ice armor on the magic circle. A deep blue energy slowly emanated from his eyes. A second later, he slammed his palm onto the ground, causing the entire area to tremble. Sharp blocks of ice jutted out, forming a circle around the spot where he stood. As his mana surged, it quickly materialized into a solid block of ice in front of him. Just a few minutes later, the white rabbit was equipped with a layer of ice armor on its back, complete with razor-sharp spikes. Sphia remarked that the form of the ice armor looked quite impressive. She simultaneously created 3 small ice shards, saying, Let's see how good its defenses are. A blinding streak of light immediately shot toward the area, causing the ground to shatter into tiny fragments. Even Dale broke into a cold sweat at this display of power. The 3 ice shards whizzed past the rabbit's position, knocking it backward as it was caught off guard. The rabbit glanced behind it to see that the spikes on its armor had been completely shattered by the attack. Seeing it was still alive, Dale happily clenched his fist and cheered. "All right, I blocked your arrows." Sfia turned and acknowledged his success. "Good job, Dale. You did quite well. It looks like you have something to say." "What is it?" he said confidently. "Yes, ma'am. I would like to ask you to teach me how to master water-based magic." Hearing this, the corner of her mouth curled into a slight smile as the sunlight gently illuminated one side of her face, but her refusal rang out. "No," leaving Dale dumbfounded. His face fell as he questioned, "Why?" Sfia raised one finger, gave a wink, and then sighed. "What you did today was just an extremely basic form of water magic. Like any other type of magic, the more you study it, the more it demands a deeper and more refined understanding. It's already difficult enough for a novice mage to learn just one element. Using 2 elements simultaneously is what we call a dual element mage. At your age, that's nearly impossible. In my opinion, you are being far too greedy." Her words struck Dale like a bolt of lightning. With his eyes wide and jaw agape, he could only utter, "Huh?" Dale thought back to his performance and silently repeated her words in his mind. "Greedy? I showed all that and it's still not enough?" He mumbled dejectedly. "But you're the one who said you'd help me find my path forward." Caught off guard, Sfia faltered, at a loss for words, before making an excuse to evade the topic. That's all for today's lesson. That night, in the study, Dale carried a stack of books. He set them down on the floor, his resolve hardening. "Even if I have to do it alone, it doesn't mean it's impossible. I'll prove it." Dale began to pore over the books, reading page after page, and at the same time, his mana surged powerfully. Not long after, a voice calling his name caused Dale to groggily open his eyes. Sfia asked with concern, "Are you all right? It looks like you didn't get any sleep last night, Dale." He lied without even blinking. "I was just preparing a few things, so I stayed up a bit late." Hearing this, she reminded him, "Don't push yourself too hard, Dale." With dark circles under his eyes, he stretched his hand forward and replied, "Yes, ma'am." A magic circle appeared instantly, followed by an arcane magical energy. He once again controlled the white rabbit, which was covered in thick ice armor and surrounded by energy. Sfia turned to watch Dale manipulating his power, taking note of his progress. "You've completely mastered it." Suddenly, the blocks of ice on the white rabbit's body began to shake. Razor-sharp shards of ice broke free from the armor and shot forward. Peering through the thick cloud of dust, Sfia wondered, "Is that an ice crystal explosion?" The white rabbit then sat motionless, lifting its head and exhaling a surge of mana that astonished her even more. "It's not over yet?" It suddenly transformed into a giant rabbit with an orb of energy right in its stomach. The white rabbit immediately hunched over, swallowing the energy orb whole. A second later, a terrifying explosion erupted from within, unleashing a barrage of ice spikes. A bewildered Sfia created a barrier around herself, her eyes wide as she stared at the ensuing chaos. Countless sharp blocks of ice hammered against her shield, causing Sfia to panic even more as she thought, "This is..." Shortly after, Dale slowly walked up to her. Sfia was at a loss for words. He raised his palm, conjuring his energy, and said, "Corpse explosion and ice crystal explosion. I've managed to merge the water and dark elements." Dale summoned both sources of power in his hands and asked quietly, "Is this enough to be considered a dual-element mage?" Everything came to a standstill after Dale's magic test. Sfia broke out in a cold sweat, staring wide-eyed at the remnants of the spell. "This is a type of attack I've never seen before." She stood frozen, analyzing how the combination of ice armor and corpse explosion had created a much wider area of destruction. Not only that, but sharp shards of ice and bone rained down like blades. Sfia walked over and bent down to examine the ice fragments scattered on the ground. She looked towards Dale, feeling extremely uneasy. This was like magic honed solely for killing, wielded by someone who had spent their entire life on the battlefield. What in the world was going through this child's mind? Dale turned around, his eyes full of innocence. "Oh!" As soon as he saw Helmut, he joyfully called out, "Uncle Helmut!" The man raised his hand to greet them. "Young master, Lady Sfia." Seeing the military uniform, Dale asked curiously, "Did you just conquer another dungeon?" Helmut excitedly boasted about his achievement. "This time, we just wiped out a small group of magical beasts, and the black-armored Knight Order had quite a tough time." The image of Saxon appeared, full of power. The Black Knight Order, the invincible army of Duke Luan. They dominated the battlefield with their aura-infused spearmanship. Figures appeared and disappeared like phantoms, and their commander, Knight Helmut, was one of the 7 swords of the continent. Dale clasped his hands joyfully and reminded him, You still remember your promise to teach me swordsmanship, right? He thought to himself that learning the sword from a man like him would be an unparalleled honor. Helmet burst out laughing. You're always welcome. Dale scratched his head in delight. Goodbye, Uncle. See you soon then, Uncle Helmet. After a brief chat, Helmet said his goodbyes and left. Sfia looked towards the castle and said, All right, it's getting cold. Young master, you should go inside before you catch a chill. We should head back now. Dale smiled brightly and nodded. Yes, master. That night, the conversation began. What do you mean, Lady Sfia? She stated blankly. I am only speaking the truth. Young Master Dale has completely mastered two disciplines, necromancy and water magic. Furthermore, he has reached the level of a first circle mage. Luan rested his chin on his hand, troubled. Lady Sfia, we clearly only asked you to teach the child water magic. As if guessing the implication of his words, Sfia told him, Yes, I was only supposed to teach water magic, but as a master, I only wanted to teach what the child yearned to learn. As I said, what Dale desired was not just water magic. The room fell silent for a moment before Tay spoke up. Then, if Dale wishes it, may we continue to ask you to guide him in water magic? Sfia respectfully bowed her head in acceptance. Of course, I will continue to assist him then. Tay replied politely, Yes, thank you. After their discussion concluded, she quickly took her leave. But before she left, Sfia stopped to apologize. I sincerely apologize for forcing you, my lady, to break the Dark Duke's pact. After she was gone, Tay stretched and remarked in admiration. Our boy is truly no ordinary child, a dual-element mage at only 8 years old. Sometimes it even gives me chills, but that's my son for you. Luan's face darkened. He glanced at her and called softly, Tay. He lowered his head dejectedly and voiced his desire. I want to pass on necromancy to Dale. As a lord, I want him to be strong enough to bear the responsibility of succession. As a mage, I want a worthy disciple. And as a father, I just want to pass on everything I have to my son. Luan held his head in anguish over his decision. I am so sorry, my lady. Tay was extremely worried, but people still look upon necromancy with fear and contempt. Everyone whispers that it is the magic of death. I only stopped you because of society's heavy prejudice. So please, train our son to be a mage strong enough to make all of them shut their mouths. The profound intention in her words left him silent. Do you understand? Immediately after, he pulled T into a loving embrace. I understand, my lady. I will give it my all to make our son the strongest. And so, the first day of special necromancy training began. Right away, Dale was reprimanded. This is disappointing, Dale. Are you still summoning without understanding what you're controlling? Dale pouted and thought to himself, but that's all my master taught me. This happened in the basement of Saxon Castle, in the Dark Duke's magic chamber, right after Dale had demonstrated what he learned from his master. He just clicked his tongue and immediately brought him here. He pointed and gave a stern command. Once you study under me, never use such crude magic again. Let's start by memorizing the entire skeletal and muscular structure of every creature. Do you understand? Dale shuddered, and though he didn't want to, he didn't dare to argue. Yes, father. The books that father gave me were ones that only specialized physicians could read, even in my past life, and after just a few days, I had memorized every single word. After the test was complete, he closed the book. It seems the basics are done. Now we can move on to practical application. We will begin the real training. Dale eagerly followed. Yes, father. A moment later, the smile quickly vanished from his face. Dale couldn't believe his eyes, wondering, is this the corpse of a goblin? After observing for a moment, Luan chuckled and remarked, You seem quite confused. A weak practitioner of necromancy can only make the corpse of a swordmaster move like a mere zombie. Conversely, a truly skilled practitioner can turn an ordinary soldier into a death knight. Now, here we have an ordinary corpse soldier. How do you plan to control it? The goblin lay there silently, regardless of what was happening. Dale confusingly opened a magic circle in his mind. His face began to scrunch up, as it seemed a bit difficult. Dale tried to connect the fine threads. Unlike the rabbit with its small body and few bones, a bipedal goblin has too many joints. Connecting them with mana threads is so troublesome. When all the connections were complete, the goblin moved, lunging forward under his control. Damn it, it's like controlling a puppet with a tangled mess of strings. I must have been wrong to use rigor mortis to increase its defense. The joints and muscles have become so stiff they can't move anymore. In a situation like this, what's the right thing to do? Seeing him fall into a state of panic, Luan had to step in and stop him. Dale, your idea of stimulating the corpse to stiffen it wasn't bad, but it also restricted the corpse's movement more than necessary. With that said, he demonstrated it for him once. Watch this. Just by lightly raising the magic, it spread out and enveloped the goblin in front. Dale was stunned to witness such a magnificent scene. Luan's magic threads were penetrating its body. He made the skeletal frame expand, saying, "The goblin's ribs are bulging, the part used to protect the internal organs. But for the dead, what need is there to protect internal organs?" As he spoke, he pushed the magic deeper, then decisively modified its structure into a form suitable for his purpose. Dale's jaw dropped in horror at this bizarre type of magic, as Luann casually destroyed the goblin and concluded, "That is the foundation of necromancy." Dale lowered his head, as if he wanted to say something. "Father, please tell me, what is the spirit that the Black Tower pursues?" Luann gave a mysterious smile that held a hint of satisfaction. He gently bent down, the magic from his hand not yet faded. "It is truth, and—" Luann knelt and placed a hand on Dale's shoulder. "Truth is always hidden in death." As he spoke, his eyes narrowed with conviction. "Therefore, we must understand it even more. To be able to touch that truth, one must understand the weight of life." Suddenly, memories of his past life flooded back. From a time when a battle was about to end, an innocent-looking civilian was begging him, "Please spare me. I beg you, Sir Hero." He coldly raised his sword. "Please, spare my life." And then, without mercy, he struck them down. Luann's voice called out, and seeing his unstable expression, he grew a little worried. "Are you all right? You look pale." Despite the question, Dale just stood there, dazed. The memory made him shudder, and after a moment, Dale finally spoke to reassure him. "Yes, I'm fine, Father. I'm all right." And so, time flew by as Dale's magical training gradually improved day by day. The news that Duke Luann had taught necromancy to Dale spread throughout the entire empire. The fact that Duke Luann had broken a vow from many years ago created a massive shockwave, because Dale was the very reason he broke that vow. Both the nobility and the commoners of the empire turned their attention towards him. One day, like any other, Dale was practicing his swordsmanship. A few weeks later, at the ducal training ground, Dale and Helmut were sparring intensely. The sword strikes he unleashed were all very precise, which delighted Helmut, as both sides tried to execute magnificent attacks. Swords clashed one after another. After a moment, the most intense exchange of the fight occurred. Dale tensed his muscles, while on the other side, Helmut also raised his sword, refusing to yield. He swung his sword, but luckily, Dale managed to dodge in time. Seizing the opportunity, he moved in and knocked the sword out of Helmut's hand. Helmut turned his head to watch it, his face unable to hide his surprise, as the sword was sent flying with such force that it embedded itself firmly in the ground when it landed. Helmut wasn't a sore loser. He quickly surrendered. "You're very skilled, young master." Of course, Dale didn't believe it. How could a swordsman like him let his sword get knocked away? He wiped his sweat, guessing, "You let it go on purpose, didn't you?" Helmut picked up his sword and denied it. "Of course not. It's because you applied your swordsmanship in a real combat situation. An ordinary person would have likely died from the very first slash. Your swordsmanship is too excellent. It's a shame that you're a mage. Since mages always have guardian knights by their side, you don't really need to train this hard. Is there a reason you're doing this? You don't have to push yourself to the point of getting injured like this." Dale looked at his bandaged arm and said decisively, "Of course there is. A duke's son who only knows how to rely on guards or protectors isn't cool at all, right?" That was just a secondary reason, he was actually thinking. Besides, who would pass up the chance to learn swordsmanship directly from one of the 7 great swordmasters of the continent? Hearing those confident words, Helmut chuckled in amusement. He ruffled the boy's hair, bursting into laughter as he praised him. "A fine answer. If I had a son like you, young master, I'd probably have no regrets." Dale was overjoyed to hear that. He had finally earned his praise. Just then, the soft rustle of a dress approached. It was Tay, she called out. "You two seem to be having fun," Dale exclaimed happily. "Mom, what brings you here?" Tay smiled gently and said, "I wanted to see how hard my son is working." After a moment of silence, she got to the main point. "Also, I have some news for you," he asked curiously. "What news?" Tay asked cryptically in return. "Do you remember the birthday present you once asked for?" Dale rubbed his chin, thinking of the big gift box she had brought. A birthday present. I only have a vague memory of it. What was it? Suddenly, he remembered his past request. "I want a little sister." Thanks to that, he understood what Tay meant to say. Seeing this, she rubbed her belly expectantly. "Then you'll have to take very good care of your little sister." Dale clasped his hands, his eyes shining with excitement. Of course! Time flew by quickly, and just like that, it was 10 months later. Dale kept poking the baby girl's cheek, making Tay happy. "Are you that captivated by her?" He didn't hesitate to say, "Yes, I am. I can't believe this is my little sister." Dale stared at the baby without taking his eyes off her. "She's unbearably cute." Seeing this, Tay suggested, "Do you want to try holding her?" Dale, although he really wanted to, was a bit hesitant. "What? Me?" She slowly placed the baby in Dale's arms. "Come on, don't be shy. Holding a baby isn't hard." When I first held her, I also found it wasn't as hard as I imagined. What do you think? She looks just like you, doesn't she? Seeing the baby smile brightly, Tay was a little excited. That's strange. She always cries when I hold her, but she's not crying at all with you. She seems very happy. Dale smiled gently, looking at the tiny creature in his arms. Suddenly, he walked over and asked, "How do you feel now?" Dale honestly shared his thoughts. She's as light as a feather, but also very heavy. Luann smiled gently, a serene feeling filling the room. That is the weight of a life. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, reminding him, "Never forget that, Dale. Now, it's probably time for your lessons, isn't it? Let's go." Dale was sure his master Sfia was waiting for him. Sfia smiled and gave a brief introduction for him to understand. "Today's lesson is combat training." Dale hesitated timidly. "Are we really going to fight for real?" Sfia encouraged him. "Don't hesitate. Just attack me with all your might." He began to summon a magic circle. "Master." Sfia also created a small magic orb, ready to fight. "Let's see how much you've improved." The battle began with sharp shards of ice hurtling towards her. Sfia swatted them all away with a single gesture. "Your first attack is too slow." She taunted him while knocking away the ice shards. "How dare you hold back against your master?" Seeing this, Dale took a few steps back, cold sweat trickling down his cheek. Sfia threw an ice shard at him, ordering, "Put up a barrier, now!" Dale's face twisted in fear at her terrifying killing intent as the attack flew. In an instant, it unleashed tremendous power. Dale looked at his knee and hand, which were frozen, and thought in fear, "If I hadn't blocked that in time, I would have been seriously injured." Sfia was thrilled to see this, creating ice armor in just a brief moment. Dale quickly retracted his magic, and the piece of ice armor fell off. She nodded and requested, "Very good, Dale. Continue your attack." He placed his hand on the ground, reciting the name of the mixed elemental ice formation spell. The spell radiated out as he spoke. Dale initiated the ice fortress, and a tall, sturdy ice fortress was erected right before Sfia's eyes. Confused, she let out a small sound. Casting an ice fortress in the middle of a battle? By reinforcing the magical structure, he raised the ice's density to an incredible level. Sfia touched it lightly, curious. "But why use a defensive spell right now? Does he need a break after my last attack?" While she was lost in thought, a sound from the other side of the wall caught her attention. Ice explosion. A bright light flashed as the spell detonated. On her side of the iced wall, Sfia was stunned for a moment, trying to process what happened. She was dumbfounded. A bead of confused sweat rolled down her cheek. Ice grenade. The magic from it exploded, enveloping Sfia's body. After the explosion ended, the ice wall came down. It was a success. Dale had made the ice wall even denser and then caused it to explode. The ice particles, which had already been reinforced before being compressed, then turned into a real ice bomb. Dale excitedly thought to himself, "That's hard to dodge, Master." But then the scene before him made him cry out in fear. "Master!" Her entire body was cracked and almost frozen solid, with ice shards piercing her in several places. "Master Sfia?" But then, she suddenly appeared from behind him. "Were you calling me?" Dale breathed a sigh of relief. "You scared me, so that was just an illusion." Sfia snapped her fingers, melting the ice on the decoy, remarking, "That's a fearsome skill." Dale couldn't believe that as just a first circle mage, he could injure an elder of the magic tower. He bowed his head, sad and apologetic. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Master." Sfia chuckled reassuringly. "I know. Actually, I'm very happy that you managed to hurt me. You believed I was strong enough for you to go all out, right? As your master. That makes me prouder than any other compliment." Hearing that, he felt a bit less worried. "Really?" she affirmed. "Of course, you are an outstanding disciple, but how did you come up with that magic formula?" Dale smiled humbly. "It's all thanks to your teachings, Master." She smiled warmly, looking at him affectionately. A while later, in Luan's private room, Lady Sfia, "What's that wound on your cheek?" She lightly touched the cut and smiled. "Oh, this? I was just a bit careless while teaching the young master. His formula is exceptionally sharp." Luan sighed wearily. "I'm indebted to you again, Lady Sfia." She shook her head. "It's nothing. Teaching such a talented student is my pleasure," Luan said seriously. "Could I ask you for one more favor?" Sfia was ever ready. "Yes, please go ahead." Luan recalled the report. "We've received news that a horde of orcs has crossed the mountain range into our territory, and a small cavalry unit can't handle them." The atmosphere darkened upon hearing the news. "However," Luan continued, "I intend to have Dale participate in this battle." Sfia immediately spoke up to protect him. "Young Master Dale isn't ready," Luan quickly reasoned. "On the front lines, one is never truly ready. Besides, protecting the territory is the duty of House Luan. As the ducal heir, the boy must understand that responsibility. Dale cannot be an exception. Sfia could do nothing but obey. What do you need me to do?" Before answering, Luan mentioned one thing first. I will give Dale my artifact. I want you to guide the boy until he can control its power. Rings appeared, representing the mysterious artifacts, an item imbued with immense power and will, usable only by charging it with mana or life force. The more powerful the artifact, the more dangerous and difficult it is to control. In some cases, it can even be fatal. In front of the artifact vault of House Luan, Luan explained to Dale, House Luan has mastered this kind of power for a very long time. Dale, as the ducal heir, you must also prepare for the upcoming battle. Hearing this, his eyes widened in surprise. Yes. A battle? That's amazing. Luan nodded and clarified the mission. Yes, you will go with the punitive expedition to eliminate the orcs. But before that, you must learn to control our family's dark power. As soon as he stepped inside, Dale's face was filled with surprise. Luan gave a general introduction. Look, these are the Demon King's artifacts that our family manages. They have been here since our ancestors conquered the Demon King's domain, so don't compare them to ordinary artifacts. He looked around. He couldn't hide his excitement. I can feel the powerful mana flowing from them. Luan nodded in satisfaction. That's right. Everything here is extremely powerful and dangerous. Don't touch anything recklessly until you learn how to control it. But when he turned back, the boy was already gone. Where did that kid go? A moment earlier, Dale had wandered off, thinking he needed an artifact that suited him. Suddenly, a voice emanated from a nearby shield. Hey, you. You have a grudge. You're dying to repay, don't you? I can feel that hatred. Other artifacts chimed in. Come here. Choose me. You coward. Pick me. Let's explore new depths together. Dale touched his chest, certain these dark artifacts were resonating with the lingering vengeance in his heart. But it's still not enough. I need something stronger. Suddenly he noticed an artifact had been following him. When did this cloak get here? With the vast experience from his past life, he recognized it instantly. Wait, this is the Shadow Cloak. During the Age of Heroes, Duke Boda of the Demon King's army used this ultimate artifact. Its ability to give form to shadows made him a fearsome opponent. Without a second thought, Dale put it on to try it out. Seeing this, the other two panicked. Dale was quickly engulfed in darkness. In the hazy space, a strange voice echoed, Hungry. I'm hungry. So hungry. Dale remained calm as ripples formed at his feet. So it has begun. This isn't an ordinary shadow. Its previous wearer could summon shadow storms and control darkness like a living creature. To truly control it, the master must make the shadow entity submit completely. The shadow entity rose from the darkness and lunged at Dale. Looks like this won't be easy, huh? His eyes widened in intense concentration as cold sweat trickled down his cheek. Outside, only a pitch-black orb could be seen. Sfia asked worriedly, It's been a while. Should we be concerned? Luan rubbed his aching head. If this continues, he could lose his mind and be devoured by the shadow entity. Hearing that, she panicked. What? Then we have to do something, right? He raised his hand. We have to forcibly pull him out. Before they could act, a blinding light flashed from within. The orb of darkness gradually dissipated, and Dale reappeared, standing tall and proud. Yes, father, Dale. Sfia rushed over. Dale, are you okay? He quickly replied as if nothing had happened. I'm fine. Hearing that, she breathed a sigh of relief. You had me so worried. Dale scratched his head sheepishly. It just bit me a little. Meanwhile, Luan was curious. How come he doesn't have a single scratch? How could a child withstand such a powerful artifact? Dale turned a bit nervously and called out, Father, I have a question. He instinctively replied, Go ahead. Okay, you have my permission. He voiced his request with an excited face. Can I try the other ones too? Both of them seemed to freeze at his innocent question. Luan grimaced awkwardly but gave his permission. Go ahead. Dale's heart leaped with joy. Thank you so much, Father. And so began Dale's days of exploring the Saxon family's artifact vault from dawn till dusk. A few days later, at the ducal estate's training grounds, Helmut exclaimed in astonishment, Young master, is that cloak you're wearing the legendary shadow cloak? Dale beamed and quickly admitted, That's right, Helmut asked with concern. That legendary item is famous for being difficult to control. Are you really all right? Dale scratched his cheek, finding it a bit hard to explain. I'm fine. Aside from it being a little ticklish, there's nothing wrong. Helmut unconsciously rubbed his head in confusion. That's amazing. Maybe because it was lonely for so long, the shadow entity clung to me as soon as it saw me. It probably just wanted a companion. Hearing that, the shadow entity at Dale's feet immediately whimpered. He stomped on it hard with an innocent look. Thank you for praising my kindness, Sir Helmut. Then he pinned it firmly to the ground. He continued, I have a favor to ask you. Helmut immediately inquired, What do you need, sir? Dale stated the request he was eager to make. I want to train in actual combat. Helmut immediately took a stance. a dense killing intent radiating from him. Very well, I will not disappoint you. Seeing this, Dale became a bit wary. Facing one of the 7 swords of the continent, his aura alone was this terrifying. Helmut smirked reassuringly. Young master, don't worry. I'll only use basic swordsmanship, no aura. But that just annoyed Dale. Holding back? Shouldn't a knight always fight with all their might? His real purpose wasn't the sparring match, but to train his ability to use the shadow cloak. Magic radiated from the cloak, beginning to envelop the entire training ground. The power of an artifact crafted from a shadow object determines its true value. So this battle is a necessary test. Magic was unleashed, and Helmut raised his sword to block the shadow blades. With a single slash, he cleared away the entire swarm of them. Witnessing this scene, Dale was even more impressed. Breaking the attack with pure strength? Amazing, Helmut laughed excitedly. You're good, here I come. With his experience, Dale quickly dodged the attack, simultaneously leaping back and leaving a spell in his place. From beneath Helmut's feet, sharp dark thorns shot up, but he noticed in time, spinning his sword to shatter them all. A surprise attack, huh? Interesting. Realizing the blow was aimed at him, Dale quickly shaped his magic into a shield. When the slash landed, his dark thorns only cracked heavily instead of shattering. Dale braced himself against the man's immense power, and though he was thrown back, he stubbornly held his ground, digging 2 long streaks into the earth. Helmut chuckled, feeling a little uneasy. He blocked it? I used enough force to slice a normal sword in 2. Without stopping, he charged forward again. 10 more moves. That day, the knights who witnessed it all whispered amongst themselves. None of them could withstand more than 2 moves from Captain Helmut. They felt an invisible wall between themselves and the young master. Time flew by, and the day of departure arrived. Tay was extremely worried for Dale. No matter how I think about it, I don't understand why your father would let you go to such a dangerous place. Dale comforted his mother. Don't worry, Mom. Father and Uncle Helmut will be there. But with a mother's instinct, Tay was still uneasy. But what if something happens? What if you get hurt? Dale took his mother's hand and said seriously, Mom, I have to become strong to one day bear the responsibilities of the Duke. When that time comes, I'll need the strength to protect you, Father, and my younger sibling too. I really need this experience. Please allow me to grow stronger to protect you. Softened by her son's sincere and persuasive words, Tay finally nodded. All right, please be safe. Dale sat firmly on his horse and smiled. I'll be back soon. Early that morning, as dawn broke over the temporary base, Helmut checked and reported. Sir, the troops are ready to depart. Luan nodded. Good. Then he turned away. Dale, give the order to the vanguard in my stead. The boy was surprised. Yes, sir. Luan turned back to look at the mighty army and said, Our proud black knights will one day follow your command. They are your knights. Dale was a bit flustered but accepted with pride. They were Dale's knights, not Sung's. This would be his first battle as a commander. Luan smiled. That's right, this time will be different. Dale stepped forward and declared clearly, The time to march has come. Advance, proud swords of House Saxon. All the soldiers roared in unison. Yes, young master, Dale commanded loudly. All troops, to your positions. The thundering of hooves echoed, signaling that a new beginning had started. In this campaign, 250 Black Knights and an elite commando unit were stationed at White Mountain. The Eastern Guard also participated. They quickly arrived before a large waterfall, their target approximately 1,000 orcs. The orcs had crossed the mountain range, heading upstream on the Saxon River to escape the cold and find food. They will soon head downstream. Luan laid out the plan. We will launch a surprise attack by crossing the Saxon River. There is only one way for 250 soldiers to cross the deep river quickly. From a distance, Sfia approached gently. Please step aside, everyone. She moved forward coolly, her intention clear. I will create an ice bridge. Dale exclaimed with joy. Master Sfia, you came to help us personally? Despite being a person who pursued peace, in the blink of an eye, Sfia created a sturdy and powerful ice bridge. Once done, she gestured with her hand. Everyone can cross now. I wish you a victorious return. Luan did not forget to express his gratitude. I am grateful for your support. Dale walked over and bowed to his master. Master, I'm leaving now. Sfia silently watched his small figure disappear into the distance, an indescribable feeling of unease rising in her heart. How strange. How can a disciple make their master this worried? A while later, at the orcs' temporary encampment, the hidden commando unit fired a volley of ambush arrows. The arrows, carrying blazing flames, shot straight ahead. Tens of thousands of arrows were fired, turning the sky crimson. The fired arrows killed enemies in droves. Helmut issued the command. Right now, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd battalions, all soldiers, assume combat readiness immediately. He signaled for the spearhead formation to charge. Helmet, observing from a high vantage point, turned to Dale and asked, "What do you think?" Young Master Dale thought to himself, "Each hoof strikes the ground twice per second. That means moving at 40 kilometers per hour. And with the added weight of the rider and armor, the impact force would be immense. Combined with a 3 to 4 meter long lance locked in position, they form a standard lance formation reinforced with aura, an attack that not even an ORC could block." He said, "That's truly overwhelming." Luan also replied, "Yes, this is the pride of the ducal cavalry." Helmet smiled and said, "You can't relax yet, Master Dale. This is just the beginning." The ORCs took a solid defensive stance, and the battle between justice and evil was unfolding intensely. He reported that the ambush was successful, but it wasn't enough to wipe them all out. A voice replied, "We will retreat, regroup, and attack in turns." A signal flare shot up, and the soldiers shouted the announcement, "Retreat signal, all units return." The war horses immediately galloped back to the encampment. The ORCs seemed bewildered, not understanding what the righteous side's next move would be. They growled in anger at the sudden retreat. Horace also quickly received the order, turning his horse to fall back, but the ORCs wouldn't give up. They hurled their spears at him. A spear flew with terrifying force, knocking Harris off his horse. Dale watched from a high vantage point and was extremely shocked. He suddenly had a serious thought as a voice rang out, "This can't be happening." A knight had fallen. Dale said loudly, "Are you already considering him a lost cause? Is a proud sword of the House of Luan to lie helpless before the enemy like this?" He turned and asked, "Why are you just standing there watching?" Luan seemed hesitant, and Helmet made no move. The ORCs were already closing in on Harris. Dale thought to himself, "It's too late to ride down now. From this distance, I need to pierce the ORC's thick hide in a single blow. An ORC's hide is much thicker than other monsters, so I have to modify the formula for Ice Flash, add a high-precision sniping formula, plus a trajectory lock to ensure stability, and increase its level of completion." Dale immediately unleashed his Ice Flash magic formula, targeting a ferocious ORC that was charging at Harris. Dale's spell shot down from above, piercing straight through its body. Helmet remarked, "To be so accurate from such a great distance." He asked in surprise, "Young Master, are you planning to enter the battle yourself?" Luan quickly stopped him. "Let him go, Helmet," Helmet exclaimed in surprise. "My Lord Duke?" He thought to himself, to have created his own magic formula with that level of firepower at such a young age. Luan and Helmet just stood there, observing Dale's every move, thinking that his inner world must be nearing completion. Dale suddenly paused in thought, realizing the goblins had regrouped. Now there were two problems. First, Harris was frozen in panic after falling from his horse. And second, the initial magic formula was too long and not yet optimized for real combat. That's why you have to learn basic algebraic identities to simplify things. I should shorten this. Dale calculated in his mind, muttering, "This should work." After finishing his calculations, he focused intently and whispered, "Ice Bullet." The injured Haris was helpless, his eyes pleading for help. A sharp icicle shot from the distance, piercing the ORC's head so fast it didn't even have time to react. The monster was killed instantly. Harris asked in a weak voice, "Young Master Dale, why would you come all this way for someone like me?" Dale didn't answer, simply dismounting his horse and walking toward him. He took another step closer and said warmly, "Don't worry. The House of Luan never abandons a loyal sword." The other ORCs hadn't given up yet, charging at Harris and forcing him to cry for help again. One, its face twisted with rage over its comrade's death, let out a furious roar, but Dale remained perfectly calm and unleashed his Shadow Blade technique. Instantly, dark wisps of energy enveloped the ORC. He smiled with satisfaction and muttered, "Absorb it." The wisps of energy immediately began to drain the monster's strength. They absorbed relentlessly, causing the ORC's body to slowly disintegrate until only its head was left, and then nothing but a dry skeleton on the ground. Dale laughed smugly. "There's still one more?" He fired another ice bullet, finishing off the last ORC. Dale wiped the blood from his clothes and said, "There, all done," Horace said in surprise. "Young Master Dale, I can't move my legs." The comment made Dale a bit embarrassed, but he happily picked Horace up, cheering softly, "Success." Then he said gently to Helmet, "I'll leave the rest to you, Uncle Helmet." Helmet immediately acknowledged the order and turned to the cavalry squad, shouting, "Charge!" All the soldiers rushed forward to attack, their resounding battle cry echoing, "For the House of Luan, for young Master Dale." A while later, at the Luan military camp, a voice reported, "Young Master Dale, the mission to exterminate the ORCs was a success." Luan's voice suddenly turned serious, I called you here because I have something to ask. Why did you jump into the enemy ranks alone? For what damn reason did you do something so reckless? Dale was anxious as he was being scolded. He trembled, silently wondering why he was suddenly being scolded like this. Luan continued to question him, demanding an explanation for why he had jumped into the enemy ranks alone. Dale explained, "Yes, father. You once said that the knights of House Luan would one day be led by me. I just wanted to act in a way that was worthy of that honor." Luan seemed satisfied after hearing this, but still said, "Your reason is too weak." Dale briefly thought, "Father is famous for valuing his knights immensely, so why is he acting like this?" He then asked, "May I ask why you stood by and watched a knight be destroyed?" Luan then answered, "The Northern Demon King's territory, ruled by House Luan, constantly endures waves of monsters. The knights on the front lines are not there to wait to be saved. They must first survive on their own." Dale was still confused. "But I expected you to save a loyal knight's life," Luan asked in return. "Like you did? You want soldiers to think and act on the battlefield, but secretly hope someone will come to save them? How many knights do you think can survive with that mindset? The knights in our domain must constantly sharpen their blades to face the dangers that are always lurking around. Only when they truly reach their limit will I personally intervene. That is the noble duty our family must bear." Dale suddenly realized, thinking to himself, "This is indeed a truth I cannot deny. I understood this clearly in my past life, yet now I've forgotten." Luan placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "But the way you acted on your own will is also commendable. Don't lose that spirit." Dale bowed his head. "I understand, father." The light from outside shone in, creating a halo around him. Luan drew the curtains and said it was time to return to the castle. The story of the young ducal heir who personally charged into a horde of orcs to save a single knight quickly became a favorite topic of discussion throughout the empire. It was rumored that the young master single-handedly slayed 1,000 orcs, and although only a part of it was true, with the rest being pure exaggeration, the story still spread like wildfire. Even though the person in question was blushing with embarrassment, this incident also breathed new life into the duchy. A few days later, at the training grounds, everyone cheered excitedly when they saw him. "Young Master Dale has arrived. It's an honor to see you. We welcome young Master Dale." Dale blushed with embarrassment. "I told you not to make such a big deal out of it." Helmut, seeing this, was also amused and teased. "Puff out your chest, young master. For the future of young Master Dale, we must become even stronger, understand?" Everyone shouted in unison, "Yes, sir." Dale found it strange, thinking to himself, "Why is everyone so fired up today?" Suddenly, Tay spoke from behind. "Young Master Dale, the guest from the O family has arrived." Dale smiled and replied, "Ah, thank you." Tay and Helmut asked together, "Shall we go?" Young Master Dale thought to himself, "I'm about to meet a special guest." Martial artist Ohat, head of the Big Dipper Holy Sword, was once a great noble of the fallen Tistonia kingdom. When the Empire declared war, everything was burned to ashes, including the kingdom, the Holy Sword, and the family. Dale glanced at Helmut. He saw his expression was a bit different, likely remembering the Holy Swordmaster of the past who had knighted him. He thought to himself, "The atmosphere is really heavy." Luan spoke up, "You've come at just the right time. Just finished training, haven't you?" Dale replied, "Yes." The butler entered and announced, "Young master, the guests have arrived." Charlotte and her mother entered. A voice rang out, "What a grand reception." Dale briefly thought, "They came all this way without bringing any servants?" She bowed her head and introduced herself. "I am Vanessa. Oh, my deepest respects to Duke Luan." Luan replied, "Welcome." Vanessa turned to her daughter. "This is my daughter, Charlotte O." However, Charlotte seemed displeased, pouting as she called out to her mother. Her attitude made Dale think to himself, "What's going on? Why do we have to bow our heads to them?" Vanessa quickly prompted Charlotte, but maintained a calm demeanor. Luan said, "You must be tired from your journey. Dale, could you escort Lady Charlotte for a tour around the castle?" Dale obeyed. "Yes, father." He gently invited her. "Lady Charlotte, please come with me." But Charlotte maintained her arrogant attitude, gritting her teeth. "Don't touch me." She swung her hand away so forcefully that Dale froze for 5 seconds. Luan was also bewildered by the little girl's attitude. Charlotte kept her haughty expression and suddenly blurted out, "The Empire's nobles are so shameless." Vanessa quickly snapped, "Charlotte, what are you doing? Apologize to the young master right now." Scolded by her mother, Charlotte turned away in annoyance. Dale still called out gently, "Wait, my lady," Vanessa said in a serious tone. "Please forgive my daughter's rudeness. She's not normally like this, but some things have happened recently, and she's not emotionally stable." Hearing this, Lucia asked sympathetically, "What happened?" Vanessa explained that not long ago, Count Brandon Book became the new lord governing their lands. He's called the Holy Knight of the Empire, but his infamy far outweighs his fame. There's a reason people call him the Pig King. There are rumors that in his quest for a talented heir, he has been sowing his seeds everywhere, even targeting my underage daughter. Fortunately, she escaped by a hair's breadth, but that horrifying memory cannot be erased, Vanessa pleaded earnestly. I just want to protect my daughter, but I am merely a fallen noble with very little power left. Please, I beg you both, take Charlotte as a handmaiden for the House of Saxon so that bastard can never touch her again. A moment later, Dale chased after Charlotte, calling out, Miss Charlotte, do you even know where you're going? Charlotte remained cold and indifferent. Dale thought to himself, of all places, why did she come to the training grounds? Suddenly, Charlotte turned around and asked softly, Is your hand all right? Dale replied cheerfully, It's fine, don't worry about it. The girl suddenly grabbed the hilt of his sword, saying, Good. Then, she unexpectedly drew the sword from its sheath, her face serious. In that case, duel me. Her sudden action left Dale bewildered, and he exclaimed, What? He thought to himself, Why is this happening all of a sudden? Charlotte coldly pointed the sword at Dale and said, Let's duel. Dale remained calm and said, There has to be a reason first. She replied, I've heard the many rumors about a transcendent being who single-handedly annihilated 1,000 orcs to rescue a fallen knight. Hearing this, he was too embarrassed to say anything. Charlotte declared, I will defeat you, the man known as the Peerless of the Empire, and prove to the world that I am stronger than you. Then I will prove that I can protect my family from that man, Dale asked curiously. That man? She answered, Count Brandon Book, the Holy Swordsman. Hearing that, he gritted his teeth, thinking to himself, I can't forget him, that dog of the Empire who stabbed me in the back. I never expected to hear his name in a place like this. Since we share a common goal, she could be a good ally. But first, this girl needs a dose of reality. He coldly turned his back and walked away, much to Charlotte's confusion, then turned back with a look of contempt. You're just an ignorant little girl. After saying that, Dale drew his sword and said, Come at me with your full strength. Hearing this, she became furious. That was my intention all along. With that, Charlotte immediately launched a powerful attack. However, to Dale, it was still just a light blow. He stood his ground, defending solidly. Seeing this, she withdrew her sword and launched another attack. Charlotte's face was filled with determination, her eyes sharp and cold. Dale seemed quite surprised by her strength. Charlotte suddenly realized, thinking to herself, an instant counter, blocked with his wrist, and there are signs of aura being channeled into the sword, far exceeding what his body should handle. Just as mages create mana through circles in their hearts, knights accumulate aura to push their bodies beyond human limits. Dale thought for a moment, She's a true knight indeed. She gave a sinister smile, pulling her hand back to prepare a finishing blow. The attack was launched in a flash, but Dale dodged it as easily as ever. The battle between them was incredibly intense. With determined eyes, she thought, At this rate, I'll gain the upper hand. When I was born, my father had already passed from this world. But every night, my mother would tell me stories about him. Mother would say, You must protect our family in your father's stead, as the proud daughter of the Holy Sword. Even after the kingdom fell and our family's fortune waned, my sword never stopped. Charlotte was tense, sweat rolling down her face, as she suddenly thought, Then why? She was furious, thinking to herself, I can't even touch him. Charlotte's attacks continued relentlessly, but she still felt that something was wrong. Once again, Charlotte used all her strength to lunge forward. She thrust her sword straight at Dale, but still couldn't break through his defense. Charlotte wondered to herself, Huh? Dale swung his sword lightly, executing a gentle counterattack that sent her sword flying from her hand. Charlotte was bewildered, thinking, But I'm the daughter of the Holy Sword. The sword plunged straight into the ground. She said in disappointment, Why can't I win? Dale calmly replied, Because you are not the Holy Sword. Your pride in being his daughter isn't wrong, but as you are now, you can't protect your family from that man. The Holy Swordsman's blade is 10 times stronger than mine. Hearing that, Charlotte regained her composure and asked, Then what should I do? What must I do? Dale said gently, I, Dale, of the House of Saxon, I swear on my family's name to protect the House of O. Until the day you are strong enough to defeat him with your own hands, I and the House of Luan will be your shield. Charlotte was confused and asked, Why would you do that? Dale explained gently, Because your sword is worthy, it will become the sword of me and the House of Luan. She quickly wiped away her tears and said in a serious tone, How could I possibly refuse? I, Charlotte, swear on my honor as a knight, even if this seems like a childish promise, but this determination is enough to be considered an oath. That night in the Duke's office, at Lady O's request, Charlotte was to become a maid for the House of Luan. Luan spoke up in surprise. I didn't expect her to accept without any hesitation. Did something happen between you two? Dale answered honestly. We made a promise, father. I swore to protect the House of O in the name of the House of Luan. He then asked, You're not using our family name just out of pity, are you? He replied firmly, No, father. Luan continued. Then what do you hope to gain from this? Dale explained. The sole bloodline of the Holy Sword. Her talent is extraordinary. We made an oath to each other, and what I want is for the new Holy Sword to raise her sword for our family. Luan, seemingly satisfied with his son's reasoning, said, Good, Dale thought to himself. The last bloodline of the Holy Sword is now under our roof. That's enough to deal that Brandon Book a heavy blow. At that very moment, in the old capital of Teonia, Meobach, a scream echoed to the heavens. A wineglass was slammed to the floor, shattering into pieces. Brandon Book roared in anger. Those arrogant fools dared to make a move first? The soldier replied, I'm sorry. He slammed his hand on the table, yelling, You idiot! You couldn't even catch one little girl? The soldier said, We sent assassins, but they were killed before they even reached the House of Luan. We suspect Charlotte O herself is the one who took them down. Brandon Book's eyes narrowed, his face contorted with rage. He walked out, thinking to himself, Useless fools. Brandon Book placed a hand gently on the table, briefly recalling the image of himself stabbing Dale in the back. Back then, he had caressed the sword and said, Don't you agree, Holy Sword Durand, my lovely fiancé? Just wait a little longer. I will create your perfect heir, no matter the cost. He ordered his men to contact the Thieves' Guild and send someone to the duchy, a cunning smile spreading across his face. Name any price. Just bring that girl Charlotte back to me. Meanwhile, as she was getting accustomed to the ducal castle, Charlotte diligently underwent rigorous training to become a maid, while also sparring daily with Dale. In the middle of the sun-drenched training ground, Helmut called out, Are you ready? With a sword in his hand, Dale smiled confidently. Of course. Across from him, Charlotte maintained a determined expression, staring intently. Helmut smiled gently, his eyes closing calmly. Then begin. Charlotte immediately clashed swords with Dale. His swordsmanship was incredibly skilled, but Charlotte's expression remained fierce. He unleashed a continuous barrage of slashes at her. Despite the pressure, Charlotte managed to parry his attacks. Helmut watched their match intently, thinking to himself, Is this really just a sparring match between children? They haven't even officially become knights yet. The fight was intense, with a chilling speed and killing intent. Suddenly, Dale's gaze faltered for a moment. He pulled down his scarf, revealing his true face to Charlotte. Her pupils immediately sharpened as she prepared to unleash a decisive move. Just as Charlotte's and Dale's swords were about to connect, Helmut intervened. Very good, he praised calmly. You fought well, Lady Charlotte. She scowled. Don't flatter me. Where did I go wrong, Sir Helmut? He asked slowly. My lady, do you know the most fundamental principle of wielding a rapier? She answered immediately. Thrusting, right? Helmut shook his head. No, the core is in your legs, your footwork. Young Master Dale dodged your thrust and closed the distance. At that moment, you should have retreated to find an opening. With a rapier, if you let your opponent get close enough to bend your arm, you completely negate its advantages. The blade becomes unstable, and your accuracy vanishes. Frankly, you need to tear down and rebuild your entire foundation from scratch. Charlotte was shocked. What? Helmut continued. I've noticed for a while now, your stance and footwork are far too sloppy. She grimaced. That's because I've never had a proper teacher. Helmut smiled slowly. Well, you have me now. We're going to fix that strange thrusting form of yours. Her face flushed red. Strange? He laughed heartily, patting her head gently. I'm just teasing. You're just too cute, my lady. Dale watched from the side, wondering just how quickly she would improve under the tutelage of Helmut, the continent's strongest swordmaster. I have to try harder too. I can't let Charlotte catch up. The process of creating a mana circle is quite similar. You have to feel the mana flowing in your heart, wait for a stable mana circuit to form, then carve that mana circuit into a complete magic circle. The problem is that this process can take dozens of years. Sphia wondered, Have you already completed the second circle? Dale nodded. Yes. In this world, the speed of mana rotation is measured in revolutions per minute. A one-circle mage usually has 300 revolutions per minute. So, 300 what? My current stats are, Circle 1 is 2,000 revolutions per minute, and Circle 2 is 400 revolutions per minute. To open a new circle, you need at least 300 revolutions per minute. That means I'm already qualified to open the third circle. Now that I have 2 circles, let's test it out. He enhanced a basic ice bullet, strengthening the connection between molecules to increase its size and hardness, while also simulating a large caliber barrel to amplify the rotation and firing speed. On Dale's fingertip, the armor-piercing bullet-targeting magic appeared. Its power erupted violently. The energy exploded in a brilliant flash, swirling powerfully at the center, and a large hole was blown through the wall in front of him. Damn. Was firing an armor-piercing bullet always this easy? Sphia clapped in praise. You learned so quickly. Dale bowed respectfully. It's all thanks to you, Master. From saving the knights from the orcs to Charlotte's development, a child who knows how to use her power correctly. Dale was lost in thought about her. Her talent was terrifying, but it inspired more trust than fear. Sphia hugged him comfortingly. You truly are a disciple to be proud of. Dale's cheeks turned bright red, and he thought nervously, this is a little too close. At dawn, in the Duke's Manor courtyard, Dale grimaced as he recalled, my master really startled me earlier. She must still see me as a child. I can't focus anymore. This isn't the time. His expression turned serious again. Time to train. A giant wall of ice suddenly appeared in the middle of the courtyard. A powerful beam of light shot out from Dale's palm. The blocks of ice turned into a continuous stream of bullets. Ice Bullet 1. They transformed into round ice spheres, the crystals exploding, releasing astonishing energy. Standing firm behind an ice shield, he smiled. Next time, I'll try an SLG bullet. Suddenly, a voice from a distance cut through the air. It was Charlotte, her face covered in sweat. Are you training here too? Dale nodded. Yeah, you too? Lady Charlotte, she replied softly. I'm just practicing the footwork that Sir Helmut taught me. Dale asked again. You really like swordsmanship, don't you? Charlotte was a bit flustered. Huh? Oh, yeah. They were silent for a few seconds before she spoke first. Hey, I'm sorry for acting so rashly before. I was too rude to you, young Master Dale. He nodded. Yeah, I admit it was rude, but I'll let it go this time. Just this once. Charlotte immediately brightened up. Really? He nodded. Yeah, so don't be so stiff. She smiled gently. Okay. The two of them leaned against a tree trunk in the cold air. The weather here is really nice. Charlotte said that even if she swings her sword until dusk, her body cools down immediately. Dale looked at Charlotte's comfortable expression and chuckled. Is that so? I didn't expect someone to think the same way as me. It's actually nice. The scene of Charlotte and Dale talking happily together. Lucia said with a smile. Time flies, doesn't it? Our son has grown up so much. Lee added. They look really good together. Lucia nodded. We'll have to keep an eye on them. It seems what you needed has already fallen into place. A mother's duty is to guide her son to be honest with his feelings. Not long after, on the outskirts of the ducal territory, the people bowed politely. Thank you as always, my lady. Lucia smiled gently. It's nothing. Please continue to take care of your health. The slums, where beggars and the homeless filled the streets, his mother would often personally come to hand-deliver aid to them. Every week she would bring food, necessities, and job assistance. Dale watched her, thinking to himself, starting this year, Charlotte and I will also go with Mom. Over here, Charlotte came running in a hurry. What's wrong, little one? A boy in commoner's clothes pulled on her arm. Help me. The boy's voice, looking at Charlotte, was desperate. My mom is in critical condition. He sobbed continuously, crying out loudly. Please help me. Dale ran after Charlotte and the boy, thinking to himself that this was extremely suspicious. They had to leave their night escort behind, running into a complex network of alleys, not asking an adult for help, but specifically targeting Charlotte. It was suspicious enough. There was a figure on a rooftop watching Dale run below. He saw that person. That guy is from the Thieves Guild, probably sent by the Sword Saint. I knew it. Their target is Charlotte, but this is a bit too obvious, isn't it? The boy stopped and said, Wait a moment, I'll go get my mom. Charlotte hesitated. Huh? Oh, okay. Suddenly, a man slowly stepped out, grinning sinisterly. Well, what's a noble kid doing in a dangerous area like this? We only have business with the little lady, so I advise you, young master, to just go home quietly, or you'll get hurt if you try to pull something. Dale laughed loudly. I, Dale of Luan, have sworn to protect the daughter of the OH family from thugs like you. The thug chuckled mockingly. Oh my. How chivalrous, but looking at the situation, you'd be better off knowing your place. It seems you need life to teach you a lesson or two. Charlotte turned back and whispered fearfully, Dale, I don't have my sword. He smiled reassuringly. It's okay, don't be afraid. This is the perfect opportunity to test out a new dark technique in the name of self-defense. The thug's entire gang rushed in from all sides. Dale quickly controlled his power, pulling them all into a vortex. The thug leader shouted angrily, Dodge it, you idiots! Dale smirked to himself. He noticed quickly. His level must be pretty high, huh? His incredibly powerful vortex, glowing with a dark purple light, erupted. The whole gang was caught and couldn't escape, all according to Dale's plan. The new dark technique he had discovered, after placing 2 parasitic circles, would move on its own and turn the targets into zombies. The thug leader's face showed a hint of fear as he watched his men get taken down so easily by the vortex. What is it doing? Suddenly, a giant man appeared behind Dale, rubbing his stomach. He growled, so hungry, so very hungry. The men caught in the vortex cried out in fear. It's a zombie! The thug leader yelled. What are you waiting for? Kill it now! He gritted his teeth in anger. Even if he's the son of Duke Luan, one slash is all it'll take to kill him. He pushed off with his feet and leaped up, moving so fast he was just a blur, as a green light shot out from his palm. No one can block my demonic curse technique in an alley like this, but Dale's dark magic shield blocked the projectile. Damn it! He gritted his teeth in surprise, gripping his sword and leaping down from above. The shield suddenly opened a small slit. Water orbs shot out continuously like machine gun bullets at a terrifying speed, piercing his body and sending blood flying everywhere. Charlotte, hiding behind a wall, watched Dale with worry. The giant was frantically devouring the thug's men. Dale watched as the man struggled to stay on his feet. He wouldn't die from just one shot. Aura users are incredibly tough. Blood dripped from the thug leader's mouth, but his eyes remained sharp. It's not over. As soon as the words were spoken, Dale's dark power sliced his body to pieces. The giant continued to frantically dig its sharp nails into human flesh, with blood pouring like rain. Hungry, so hungry. Dale coldly retracted his dark power and turned to Charlotte, who was cowering fearfully in a corner. Are you okay? She stammered. The last remaining thug, having just witnessed his comrades get wiped out, took a single step forward before a blue light pierced his ankle, freezing it solid. He screamed in pain, collapsing and writhing on the ground. Ah, help me! I'll tell you everything I know, Dale said sternly. Everything you know? The man stammered. Yes, I'll tell you everything. So, suddenly, just as he finished speaking, a water orb pierced through his forehead. Dale looked at the corpse with boredom. I've lost interest. The last man of the bandit group was also easily eliminated by Dale. Charlotte looked around, frightened, and said, You don't have to say anything else. This is the true face of House Luan that people fear, and it's also the power that protects me. Dale moved closer and asked softly, Seeing it up close? Are you scared? Charlotte nodded slightly, but then immediately smiled. A little, but it's okay. You fought to protect me, right? I have already knelt before you. I made up my mind on the day I made that vow. If your family is my shield, then one day, I will raise my sword for you. Thank you for teaching me what a real future is. I will become even stronger. Dale looked surprised by her words, and the expression in his eyes changed. Part of the reason he took Charlotte in was out of regret for the doctor 24 years ago. He slowly extended his hand, gently offering it to her. Dale smiled to himself, thinking, So this is why Charlotte chose to become my sword. She smiled happily, her cheeks blushing, as she took his hand. To Charlotte, that gesture meant far more than Dale could possibly realize. Meanwhile, at the residence of Count Brandon Book, the old man was in a rage. Brandon Book's expression was extremely grim. Damn it. I know it's difficult to invite the newly appointed count here, but I must invite him to the Luan Duchy. Luan said sternly, Please maintain the friendly respect between our two houses. Do not refuse this invitation. The old man roared in anger. This is a summons from the Dark Duke to hold you accountable. Even a great sword saint cannot defy this order. A few days later, at Duke Luan's castle, sitting on the main throne, he slowly said, I'm pleased the Count has taken the trouble to come here. Brandon Book, terrified, stared at him intently. Luan continued, I didn't expect you to arrive so soon. Please forgive this humble reception. Brandon Book awkwardly placed a hand on his chest. Nothing is more urgent than a summons from the Duke. His gaze flickered towards Dale and Charlotte, who stood behind him. After the uproar in the ducal territory, an air of concern is spreading throughout the Empire, especially over a kidnapping in broad daylight. I believe I know why you've called me here, but as the Emperor's loyal sword, how could I possibly be involved in such a shameful matter? Suddenly, a dark power, a stream of black and purple light, shot straight towards Brandon Book. He tried to resist with his holy sword, but the black wind enveloped his two subordinates, their bodies beginning to wither, incinerated piece by piece. Brandon Book shouted in a panic, Oh, Duke, please spare them. He backed away. Even the Holy Knight of MacDonald couldn't withstand it, his face pale as a sheet. He screamed, This magic is a void storm, a high-level dark magic. Get down, the Holy Swordmaster growled. Does the Duke understand the gravity of his current actions? Luan gave a cold, calm command. I advise you to listen carefully, Count. There won't be a second warning. Brandon Book gritted his teeth, but his knees finally buckled. He thought in terror, damn it. Even if the Dark Duke has a point, I never thought he'd go this far. Luan spoke clearly. You know I called you here for the peace of the Empire, but if you dare touch a child of House Saxon again, I will wipe out every last remnant of House Brandenburg. Carve this into your heart. You must be tired from your long journey, Count. Please rest and warm yourself. He bowed his head low, murmuring, I am deeply grateful for the Duke's generosity. But unfortunately, the situation does not permit me to stay in your territory any longer. Luan nodded. Understood. Then I pray for your safe journey home. Standing behind them, Dale smirked sinisterly. What father just did to Brandon Book, one of the Emperor's most loyal retainers, will become the spark that sets the Empire ablaze. It's just a small ember now, but soon the fire will erupt, and their duty will be to take the Holy Swordmaster's head. When the whole world learns that the Holy Swordmaster was forced to kneel before the Dark Duke, the very pillars of the Empire will tremble. In his private study, Luan boldly removed the cloth covering to reveal what lay beneath. Sia asked hesitantly, "These are the bodies of the Bandit Guild members who attacked Dale." Sia's face turned pale. This was all Dale's doing. The bodies were strewn about, riddled with holes, their entrails scattered everywhere. For the first time in his life, Sia doubted his own teachings. Luan said slowly, "But you see, guiding Dale's extraordinary talent down the right path requires your wisdom, Sia. I want to offer you the position of chief advisor." Sia pondered for a moment, then gathered his courage and replied, "I understand." Understanding how that child sees the world was now the most important thing. In the magnificent grand hall of the castle, time passed quietly, and Dale's 10th birthday arrived. Unlike last year, this time, representatives from the Emperor's faction were also in attendance. Suddenly, a young man with red hair approached Dale. "Welcome, Marquis Eurus." He smiled sinisterly. "A pleasure to meet you, young Master Dale." A moment earlier, in the magnificent grand hall of the castle. "Oh my goodness, look at all this food. It's truly worthy of the Saxon family. What a magnificent sight. It's hard to believe. To think we're all the way in the northern territories. Haha, that's right. Worrying that the ducal territory was too far from the imperial capital was completely unnecessary." Dale stood to the side, listening intently to the guests' every word. He glanced over at the group of central nobles from the imperial capital, the so-called Emperor's faction. They were the largest and most influential power in the empire, always acting in the Emperor's name. The reason for their presence at the birthday banquet tonight was all too clear. It was a veiled warning, a message from the royal family that they would not overlook any insult directed at the Holy Swordmaster. And the person chosen to deliver that message was now standing right in front of him. Eurus bowed formally. "You must be the young Lord Dale. I am Marquis Crimson Eurus. It is a great pleasure to meet you." Dale thought to himself, he's the master of the Red Magic Tower, a seeker of fire, fury, and power within the confines of order. The mages of the Red Magic Tower were infamous throughout the Empire for their fanatical belief that might makes right, and thus they never hesitated to become the enforcers of mad ambitions. "I myself was once a subject of their various modification experiments," Eurus stated confidently, "the genius of the House of Luan. I hear you possess a magical talent that's unmatched in the entire Empire. Rumor has it, to protect your knight, you single-handedly wiped out 7 orcs at just 9 years old." Dale gave a confident smile, bowing slightly. "As expected of the Duke's son. I hope you have a pleasant evening." Eurus walked away with a sinister smile. "It's so tiring having a big birthday party like this every year. I'd rather be training with a lich, but she's a maid for Tay now. If a rumor got out that the Sword Saint's daughter was sparring with me, I'm afraid it would only bring her trouble." Suddenly, a piercing scream rang out from behind Dale. "Don't move, you lowly maid," Dale grimaced. That voice. He immediately ran toward the sound. The maid was sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, sir, I beg you. I belong to the House of Luan," the man furiously yelled. "A lowly maid like you dares to use the Duke's name? Everyone's busy celebrating the young master's birthday. Instead of wasting time standing around, wouldn't it be more fun to go enjoy yourself with a woman? If you keep resisting, I'll slit your throat." He pinned the maid against the bushes. "Now be a good girl." Dale suddenly appeared from behind and yelled, "What do you think you're doing?" Startled, the man turned around. "Young Master Dale." He backed away a few steps, a knife still in his hand. "Young Master Dale, what brings you here?" He laughed awkwardly, his voice slurring from the alcohol. "Have you ever known the pleasure of a woman? You look so innocent. I bet you're inexperienced, huh? Why don't I personally teach you a thing or two?" He had the maid in a chokehold, and she couldn't break free. Dale's eyes grew cold as ice. "Don't worry, I'll get you out of this right now." In a world built on a strict hierarchy, no one expected the young master to be the one to attack first. A sharp shard of ice suddenly shot forward, piercing Petro's ear, and he immediately collapsed to the ground, releasing the maid. Dale stood there coldly, not backing down an inch, despite knowing that confronting a member of the Emperor's faction was incredibly dangerous. The man screamed, "What do you think you're doing? Young Master Dale, get on your knees and apologize to me now." Dale's face was grim as he pointed to the ground. "Didn't you hear me? Get on your knees and apologize to the maid this instant. As she said, she serves the House of Luan, which makes her one of us." The man ground his teeth. You, Luan brat, young Master Dale, it's a pity, but I am here today representing His Majesty. To insult me in defense of a lowly maid is to insult the Emperor himself. Dale replied nonchalantly. Then let me ask you something. Does His Majesty find pleasure in the assault of a nobleman's maid? The man was at a loss for words. How dare you speak such treason? Dale said through clenched teeth. This is your final warning. Watching from afar, Eurus couldn't hide a delighted grin, then knelt on one knee, saying with excitement, what an interesting turn of events. Suddenly, a voice boomed. Dale, what is happening here? Dale answered. This man was attempting to assault a maid of the house of Luan. The man hastily added, Yes, your grace the Duke. The young master overreacted. Dale, unyielding, said loudly, Did I tell you to stand up? Our honored guests from the capital have a duty to act as His Majesty's representatives, yet this man dared to commit a shameful act, attempting to assault a lowly maid, and tarnish His Majesty's honor with his own hands. For that reason, I could not simply stand by without punishing him. Eurus suddenly laughed out loud. Ha ha, well said, what a sharp boy. Everything you said was true, after all. For someone tasked with representing the Emperor to commit such a despicable act against a maid, truly shameful. The man panicked. Lord Eurus! A crimson flame flared up in Eurus's palm. Pale with fright, he scrambled to his feet and fled, screaming in terror, No! Spare me! Eurus smiled a terrifying, wicked smile. A vortex of fire shot from his palm, swallowing the fleeing Petro. He was consumed by the inferno, screaming, It hurts so much! It's so hot! Eurus said slowly to Dale. You were right. It is my duty to exterminate the pests who dare to dishonor the Empire and the Imperial family. I'm very much looking forward to your future, young Master Dale. Dale stared back, his gaze sharp as a blade. After that, the incident died down, and the Emperor's faction departed, restoring peace to the House of Luan. Then, one morning after the party at the castle, the maid stood silently and solemnly by the bed, speaking softly, Is it time to wake up, sir? Dale, still half asleep, slowly replied, Thank you for waking me, she said shyly. It was nothing, sir. He then asked, Is there something you wanted to say? The maid hesitated. Oh, thank you, my lord. It is my honor to serve you, Dale thought to himself. Was she just hesitating to say that? I've lived 2 lives already. But this feeling is still so unfamiliar. I'll have to get used to it. His expression relaxed, and he said with a bright smile, Thank you. He is the eldest son of House Saxon. I understand the weight of this name and I will use it to its fullest potential, as long as the Empire falls. Luan began solemnly, You are very intelligent, Dale, but your recent behavior has been strange. Why are you speaking like that? His expression remained calm as Dale replied slowly, If the otherworldly hero and the holy sword Badio hadn't both perished in that battle, the next place the hero's sword would have been pointed is the Saxon Duchy. Luan was astonished by what he had just said. These words were too blasphemous. He asked sternly, How can you be so sure? Dale's attitude had changed because he had heard about the Empire's conspiracy against the Saxon family in his past life. The Empire discarded the hero. They were afraid that once the leash on their golden gift was broken, the Hound would go berserk. Even though the otherworldly hero had defeated the Demon King, the Empire didn't completely eradicate the evil creatures within the Demon King's territory. Instead, they issued a ridiculous decree turning the Demon King's land into royal territory and unilaterally forced our family to make sacrifices, even bestowing that land upon you, Father. As long as the darkness in that land isn't completely purified, our blood will continue to be shed. Furthermore, to the people within the Empire and beyond the northern borders, our House Saxon is considered a family of darkness. Just as they discarded the hero, they will try to eliminate internal threats, meaning those who could potentially cause them harm. Luan asked again, Discarded the hero? Dale cut in, replying, This is merely a deduction I've drawn from the records I've read. Logically, it's the only thing that makes sense. Officially, the hero died an honorable death after his battle with the holy sword Badeo. It's no wonder, since very few people know the truth behind the hero's death. If your hypothesis is correct, then the Empire is nothing more than a giant seeking to crush all smaller nations. He looked straight at his son, deep in thought. The boy's wisdom far surpassed his age. Then what do you think House Saxon should do? He replied slowly. House Saxon cannot coexist with the Empire. Suddenly, Dale's expression darkened, and he stressed, Therefore, we must destroy the Empire. The air in the office grew heavy. His father growled, Do you understand what you are saying? He replied calmly, I'm not suggesting we raise an army and declare war immediately. Dale paused for a moment, then said, 10 years. His father asked in surprise, 10 years? He explained, Right now, rebellious factions all over the continent are pushing for independence. That includes vassals like you, father. The Duke of Saxon is also afraid the Empire will turn its sword on them. The economy is in decline, with rampant looting every day. And although the Seven Continents Unification Treaty has concluded, the consequences of the war continue to worsen. By that time, we must build a force capable of protecting our house from the Empire. We will support the opposition factions in the regions, and I have presented the plan to bring down the Empire. As the sun set behind the magnificent castle, Dale concluded his presentation and asked, "What do you think, Father?" For a moment, his father just smiled cunningly without a word. Then, Luann burst out laughing. "Your talent is truly limitless. I am confident you possess a vision that I lack. You are worthy of being my son. From this day on, you will no longer be just the eldest son of the ducal house or a mere 8-year-old child. I will see you as the heir who will lead House Saxon." The boy was surprised. "Well," Luann said gently, "as the family head, I will listen to and value your words." He smirked inwardly. "I've waited for this day for so long. The day I'd have the power to command the authority of the Saxon family with my own hands." He smiled. Luann continued, "Do not hesitate, Dale. What will you do for our family?" He replied, "You said you would treat me as an equal, right? In that case, please allow me to take on the Tower Trial in the Necropolis." The Tower Trial, a competition that determines a mage's rank, where they must confront the guardians of the magic tower. Defeating a higher-level guardian raises the challenger's rank, and the strongest earns the title of Tower Master. The one who reaches the pinnacle is bestowed the title of Lord of the Magic Tower. He asked again, "Do you truly wish to go to a dangerous place where you could be killed? It's too soon. You haven't even completed the third circle." "I'm almost there." Luann was worried. Usually, it takes until one's early 20s to reach the third circle, and even for his son, advancing from the second to the third circle was a difficult feat. Dale's expression was determined. "This decision is for both me and House Saxon." His father was surprised, and the boy elaborated, "If I can prove my worth through the Tower Trial, my position as the heir will be even more secure. Your father's position will be more secure, and you'll earn a reputation that rises above all the gossip?" Luann asked gently. "Is that why you want to take on the Tower's challenge?" Dale's demeanor was now incredibly confident and resolute. "Yes," he nodded. "Very well, I'll leave this to your judgment." Dale was thrilled. "Thank you, Father. I'll prove myself to you." A few days later, in the vast city of the dead, Necropolis, someone was already waiting at the gate to greet them. The figure from the ducal carriage stepped out gracefully. "They're here." The servants bowed formally. "We are honored to welcome you, Lord Dark Duke." Dale, standing beside him, had a grim expression, thinking, "Did I overdo it again?" Outside the grand hall, whispers started to spread. "Look over there. It's the Dark Duke and the young Master Dale. Haha, I heard he's a magical prodigy, the likes of which the Empire has never seen. It must be true, but he doesn't look so good today, does he?" "Hey, I'm serious. I heard his swordsmanship is on par with the knights of the ducal house." Velix smirked. "How ridiculous. I, Velix, am the top graduate of the academy, the one destined to conquer this Tower Trial." Tom chimed in. "Yeah, that noble looks so frail, a slight push would knock him over." Eris appeared and bowed formally. "Greetings, Tower Master." Luann said softly, "It's been a while, Eris." She smiled. "It is an honor to serve you, young Master Dale." Eris was the chief administrator of the tower, handling all administrative duties in the Duke's absence. Luann turned to his son. "During the trial, she will be your support." He nodded. "Yes, Father." Dale stepped forward and said cheerfully, "I'll be in your care." Eris gestured, "Of course, young master. Please, follow me." A total of 59 graduating students are waiting for you. All of them will be participating in the trial alongside you. A door suddenly swung open right in front of him and Eris, revealing countless people inside. These were the very individuals who would be competing in the Tower Trial. "Greetings to all who are present. I am Eris, the Tower's chief administrator. I will now explain the first trial of the Dark Magic Tower. Please examine the necklace around your neck. It is a life necklace. This trial is a survival-style competition, a battle of life points. Each necklace contains a protective magic shield to defend its wearer and holds 1 life point. When you successfully strike an opponent by controlling the undead scattered across this battlefield, their necklace will activate its shield and then shatter, which means they are eliminated. The attacker who lands a valid strike will gain 1 life point, which is added to their necklace. Any contestant who accumulates a total of 3 points will advance to the next floor. Finally, anyone caught using a magical artifact will be considered to be cheating and will be immediately disqualified." Dale thought to himself, "The rules are certainly efficient for weeding out the weak." His gaze suddenly sharpened, but Velix unexpectedly shouted, "That monster is already a third circle mage at his age? I'm telling you, we should take that monster down first." Tom asked hesitantly. "Are we even allowed to attack him?" Velix reassured him. "Don't worry. The moment we stepped in here, we all became opponents. Dale smirked to himself. He's awfully confident. Let's see if his abilities live up to his talk. The crowd of students simultaneously opened magic circles, all aimed at Dale. The trial begins. Velix thrust out his palm, channeling his power and summoning zombies before him. Wielding weapons, they swarmed towards Dale. A large zombie leaped to attack from above, but he quickly conjured a dark shield to block the blow. Behind him, a zombie several times larger suddenly appeared. Since when did he? The giant zombie roared, unleashing its power. Velix saw his own zombies being frozen solid. Water magic? The giant zombie lunged forward with its sharp claws. Don't tell me he's a dual-element mage. With Velix's zombies frozen solid, Dale's zombie easily defeated them in a single strike. Velix roared, "How dare you touch my army of the dead?" The giant zombie raised its arm, shielding Dale's body. He smirked, "It's useless. I've reinforced them with ice armor." Dale continued to command his zombie in a fierce battle. Velix pointed a finger. "Isn't using water magic against the rules? Only necromancy and undead control magic are permitted. All other forms of enhancement are forbidden." Dale replied, "True, but is there any rule that forbids me from enhancing my undead with ice magic? If the trial hasn't been stopped, then it seems I'm in the right." Velix still wasn't giving up. "You too! Hold back those undead! Focus your attacks directly on him!" Zombies continuously emerged from Velix's magic circles, attempting to overwhelm him with sheer numbers. Dale's expression changed as he quickly thought, using old magic is forbidden too. He carefully observed each approaching zombie, then suddenly dashed straight forward. This was the only way. With incredible speed, he easily broke through their encirclement. Dale's attitude wasn't fearful at all, but extremely confident as he charged right into the middle of the zombie horde. In the blink of an eye, he dodged every single attack. He gripped the sword tightly in his hand, their own weapon, and then used his powerful fist to shatter a zombie's arm. He quickly grabbed their massive weapon and planted his feet firmly. He swung the sword in a fierce counterattack. Tom was horrified. "No way! My undead soldiers are being cut down so easily?" Velix's jaw dropped. That sword isn't normal. He reforged the bones to increase the blade's hardness, and it's emitting a purple light. A zombie swung its sword down at the ground. Dale leaped into the air to dodge, his face full of confidence. Each zombie was taken down in a single blow. Velix grimaced. "He even defeated my last undead soldier. A mage who's that skilled with a sword?" Dale defeated all his opponents in an instant, and then approached Velix. Velix stammered and begged, "Please, young Master Dale, I surrender." Dale laughed excitedly. "It's not like you'll actually die, so what's there to be afraid of?" As soon as he finished speaking, he lightly tapped Velix on the head with the pommel of his sword. Velix staggered, clutching the lump on his head and muttering, "You monster." All the spectators above cheered loudly. The result was in. The young master passed the trial alone with 60 life points. Dale looked up, his expression proud. "Watch closely. This will be my new beginning." The monster of a man fiercely raised his magic-infused hand. The second-level tower trial was to defeat a guardian creature called a flesh golem. Normally, the surviving contestants from the first level would cooperate to take it down. But the one who broke those traditional rules was Dale. "I've gotten rid of them all. The rules are also different from the first round. Now, all magic systems are permitted, but artifacts are still forbidden." For him, that was more than enough. This was the perfect opportunity to test the limits of the third circle. The golem slammed a critical punch into the ground, causing it to explode. It paused for a few seconds as the smoke and dust cleared, wearing a triumphant smile as if to say it was the best. But a surprise was waiting for it. Dale's magic enveloped the golem's entire sturdy arm. The golem's face went blank while he stood proudly amidst the rubble, completely unscathed. Dale cast a dark magic spell with a smug smile. Accelerated decomposition. Luann watched from the outside with curiosity. Eris, beside him, clicked her tongue in admiration. The young master's magic is truly unusual. Why did he choose to make it decompose instead of just destroying it? Dale silently watched the golem's body slowly disintegrate, thinking to himself, "In my past life, when facing this type of monster, this move was both precise and had high firepower. It was called biological warfare." He withdrew his magic, covered his nose with his hand, and clicked his tongue. "It stinks. I wonder if they understood what they just witnessed?" The disgusting process of biological warfare was simulated through black magic. That day, Dale passed all the way up to the 10th level test, setting a new record. He was given a 4-day break before entering the 11th level trial. In the meantime, to compensate for the massacre on the first level, a retrial was allowed for the remaining 59 contestants. Except for Dale, of course. That same night, by the fountain, he was spacing out when a voice called from behind, "Dale!" He turned around and exclaimed joyfully, "Master Sphia." Sphia nodded in satisfaction. "You did an excellent job. Hearing you say that makes me very proud." But right after that, Dale paused, took a deep breath, and said, Master Sphia, will you go on a date with me? She was so surprised she repeated, a date? He had already suggested, there's a festival downtown. Let's go. Sphia felt helpless and had to indulge him. All right then, let's go, she thought to herself. A date? I guess it's not entirely wrong, but he was thinking something different. Is this the evil desire people talk about? At the Necropolis City Festival, people bustled about in a secluded corner. Sphia asked, the trial must have been exhausting, right? Dale shook his head. It's okay. I still have a few more days before I have to continue. She smiled gently. Is that so? That's good then. As they were talking, both suddenly fell silent. The atmosphere became strangely quiet. To break the tension, changing the subject. The moon is really beautiful tonight, isn't it? Sphia looked up and nodded. Yes, it is. He sighed in frustration, not knowing what else to say, but this silence was actually very comfortable. It had always been like this with his master. Perhaps because she had trusted him from the beginning, he wanted to get closer and closer to her. A few days ago, just as he had completed the third circle, Dale finally understood what it meant to face his inner limits. His nose started bleeding from overexertion. He pinched his nose, resolute with himself. To break through the limit, he had to overflow the mana from the second circle. Only by enduring the rampaging mana could he maintain the third circle. The interlocking magic circles gradually appeared. Suddenly, a silver sword from deep within his soul emerged from his heart. He looked at the black sword standing in the middle of a snowy sky, surrounded only by a white void. Suddenly a voice rang out. When you truly calm your mind, the inner world will open. Dale lowered his head, understanding. So this is it. This is the inner world. His world of consciousness. There was originally nothing here, just an absolute void. And in that empty world, Master Sphia reached out her hand to him. Perhaps that's why she was the one who brought light to his world. Thinking this, the words naturally flowed out. Master, I like you. Sphia couldn't believe her ears. What did you just say? Dale pounded his chest, clearly declaring, I said I like you, Master. She chuckled softly, still seeing him as a child. Sphia bent down and hugged Dale tightly. Is that so? Her voice was warm and deep. I like you very much too. Dale had to accept her response in a way he hadn't hoped for. Thank you, Master. Living two lives really has its benefits. A few days later, on a peaceful morning at the Dale family mansion, inside the 11th level training tower, he sulked to himself. Still no progress with Master at all. She probably just sees it as a childish crush from an 11-year-old kid. Now, I just need to focus on the test. Eris stepped forward to announce that the format for the 11th level trial was a one-on-one duel, with the winner advancing to the 12th level. His opponent, holding a grimoire, bowed his head. It's an honor to face you, young Master Dale. I am the third circle master, Albrecht von Rosen II. Don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're a child. The 11th level trial allows the use of all types of artifacts and magic, meaning the lifelink amulet no longer guarantees survival. The artifact limit has been lifted. Dale thought to himself that he didn't need to hold back anymore. He would crush him immediately to establish a power gap. Before the referee could even shout start, Albrecht launched his first attack, a critical blow that Dale would find hard to block. He sneered, I'm not like those academy rookies you've faced before. Your winning streak ends here. Albrecht used magic to create a barrage of dark arrows that shot towards Dale. Annoyance was clear on his face, but his opponent continued to provoke him. Let's see how you block this one. As soon as he finished speaking, Albrecht von Rosen II launched all the dark arrows at Dale. He continuously dodged each attack, finally escaping the danger zone. Dale was furious that he was playing dirty. Technically, being even 1 second ahead of the referee should have been a foul, but the judges remained silent. They wanted to see his true limits. This damn meritocracy. This is why I hate mages. After a series of attacks, Albrecht began a lengthy incantation. My creations, arise. O you who have sworn eternal servitude to me, servants from a darkness deeper than the blood night. Dale, burying him alive, cringed. What kind of annoying spell is this? But he had to admit, it was much stronger than the average rookie. Dale continuously dodged the attacks from the shadow minions. Albrecht slicked back his hair, acting arrogant. How long do you plan to keep dodging? How can you win against me like that? The minions charged forward, and Dale could no longer stand still. His magic erupted, and in an instant, he sent all of Albrecht's minions back where they came from. Albrecht smirked. You think you've won just because you're out of tricks? Immediately, the minions' bodies swelled up and exploded one after another. Dust and smoke chaotically filled the arena. Albrecht laughed loudly. Today, I am the victor, young Master Dale. The smile on his lips instantly vanished, replaced by panic. Wait, where did he go? From behind, a shadow silently rose, and Dale appeared, sneering. You look pretty panicked. Magic enveloped Albrecht. It was demonization, Fear was evident in Albrecht's eyes, but it'll take more than that to defeat me. At his feet, a series of phantoms moaned. Hungry, so hungry. Can we eat? Let's eat. Let's eat. They looked at Dale, pleading, as he gave a mysterious smile. Dale said softly, "Go ahead and eat, but don't get too full." They immediately lunged forward. Horrific screams echoed throughout the arena. They devoured almost all the magical essence in Albrecht's body. He begged and shrieked, "Please spare me." When Dale felt it was enough, he ordered them to stop. The announcer's voice boomed. "You are the winner of round 1, Dale von Saxon." He closed his eyes and whispered. Behind him, a line of contestants trembled. Now, everyone turned pale, thinking about what would happen next. Who wants to go to round 2? Not a single person dared to move. "I surrender. I still want to live." Dale just smiled faintly. Everything was going according to plan. From the 3rd round onwards, no one left in the tower could stand against him. He won all subsequent rounds overwhelmingly. Dale fought while honing his skills, perfecting the 3 magic circles as he defeated each guardian one by one. It wasn't until level 20 that a formidable opponent appeared, the Headless Knight, a creation of one of the former Black Tower masters, a warrior with no head. Even for young Master Dale, "You won't be able to go any higher." Dale raised his hand, mana surging forth. It would be boring if everything was this easy. His eyes turned completely white, as if a true monster had awakened. A stream of pitch-black mana shot towards the knight. The atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. Then suddenly, the Headless Knight knelt on one knee before Dale. Everyone in the stands was stunned into silence. The knight respectfully offered its own sword for him to decide its fate. Dale ordered without hesitation, "End yourself." And just like that, the battle ended without any trouble. Dale gave a wry smile as he watched the knight's body disappear, so loyal that it even betrayed its own creator. He suddenly realized the stands were dead silent, everyone frozen like stone statues. Ah, I went too far. I just wanted to prove a small point. Without another thought, Dale turned and left. Even though he could continue, there are limits that shouldn't be crossed. The levels above are a place even monsters fear. He walked towards the exit door, the path for those who give up or have reached the peak. The people behind him whispered, "Where is he going?" "That's the exit. Why has he given up already?" Dale just whispered to himself, "That's enough." And with that, Dale's trial officially came to an end. Outside, all the students, the tower master, and the nobles were lined up neatly to greet him. The master of the magic tower was present in person. The entire Black Tower stood at attention as if for a military review, and one by one, they bowed their heads, expressing absolute loyalty to the father and son of House Luan. Thanks to Dale's outstanding performance, the ducal flag once again flew over the entire northern territory. No one dared to doubt the power of the Black Duke and his future heir anymore. A few days later, in the northern part of the empire, on the territory of Duke Luan, knights were going all out to exterminate all the monsters. In just a single charge, they had nearly completed their mission. As they attacked, they chanted slogans for young Master Dale and for House Luan. Having successfully passed the tower's trial, Duke Luan assigned Dale as the commander of the Orc Extermination Squad. Wherever his monster extermination squad went, monsters were annihilated. It was a mission that not just any 10-year-old child would receive. Yet, no one doubted Dale's command abilities. And so, the heir of the Black Duke gradually began to unify the North. A few days later, early in the morning at his family's mansion, Dale stood formally to report, "Your Grace, we have eliminated 145 orcs." Luan got straight to the point. What were the cavalry's losses? According to the figures he reported, 3 had minor injuries, with no fatalities. Luan asked for confirmation. "Did you use magic to protect them?" Dale replied immediately, "No, this was purely the result of the swords of House Luan." After finishing, Sir Helmut, who wasn't used to giving praise, said, "Good job." Immediately, Helmut turned to boast to the Duke, "Your Grace, young Master Dale has really gotten used to commanding a large cavalry unit." Dale humbly rubbed his hands and demurred. "It's all thanks to Sir Helmut's teachings." He recalled the past few months with excitement. Sir Helmut had taught him swordsmanship, tactics, and military strategy. Helmut had placed all his hopes in him. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the young master could even lead a territorial war. Despite his excitement, Dale remained patient. "A territorial war, huh? I'm always looking forward to the next stage." A while later, Charlotte was swinging her sword as if in a real match. Her opponent this time was Dale. Charlotte continuously unleashed powerful spinning sword strikes, but unfortunately, he managed to dodge them in time. Not stopping there, Dale weaved around, catching her off guard and unable to react. A second later, Charlotte managed to swing her sword to block his thrust. The two fought from one end of the training ground to the other, neither giving an inch. For a brief moment, Charlotte almost landed a hit on Dale. He offered praise and encouragement. You've improved a lot. Charlotte looked annoyed, not accepting the praise as she still couldn't compare to him. Dale laughed and teased her further. Am I teasing you too much? Charlotte was too dejected to argue. After all, he was already a third circle mage and had even passed the second level of the tower. Ever since then, everyone was all young Master Dale this. Young Master Dale that, wasn't it getting old? Seeing her like this, Dale comforted her. Don't worry, you'll get stronger too. Hearing that, Charlotte's face flushed red. Dale thought to himself, after all, she was only 10 years old. Charlotte was already outstanding by any standard. Although Charlotte was very embarrassed, she still acted haughty. Hey, don't treat me like a child, Dale corrected her. But you really are a child. So am I. He then pointed to himself. Me? I'm already grown up, you know. She waved her hand dismissively. Yeah, whatever. Very quickly, their sparring match ended. Now, young Master Dale and Sir Helmet sat facing each other, with game pieces laid out on a strategy board. Today's lesson caught Dale's attention. The hammer and anvil tactic, where cavalry is positioned on one or both of the enemy's flanks. As if he already knew the outcome, he immediately said the key is for the cavalry to break through the enemy's flank and encircle them. Helmet nodded. Exactly. The hammer and anvil tactic is named that way because it's like placing iron on an anvil and striking it with a hammer. This is a tactic that relies heavily on cavalry. Dale rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Indeed, this is only feasible with dark knights, and the strategy is similar no matter the world. Suddenly, he remembered. Oh, right. How is Charlotte's training going? Helmet rubbed his chin and thought for a moment. Charlotte's progress, although not comparable to you, sir, it's still extraordinary. The young lady already has a solid foundation in swordsmanship, and soon she will master aura and the swordsmanship of Saxon. However, there is one concern. Dale guessed. It's about the compatibility between Charlotte's swordsmanship and ours, right? Mages refine mana into magic using a magic circle in their heart, while knights refine mana through techniques to transform it into aura. Mages build magic towers to master their philosophy, while knights establish orders to pass down their sword techniques. Among them, the Northern Dark Knights are like charging war chariots. The power of the Nightcrow Knight Order is a prime example of crushing the battlefield with pure strength. The problem is that Charlotte's sword technique focuses more on speed and graceful movements, wielding the sword with agility and flexibility. With that talent, she could reach the lowest level of the 7 great sword masters, but she will never reach the level of the number 1 sword, a sword style that was both powerful and graceful, once wielded by the head of the 7 great swords, who was Charlotte's father. Thinking of this, Dale was a bit distracted and blurted out, Flower sword. Helmet understood, his face sad. If only that swordsmanship still existed. Helmet recounted, but it was lost with the fall of the Night Kingdom. Dale stared at the night piece on the board, his heart full of sympathy. Is it really gone from this world? After that, Dale's days became even more restless. While balancing monster slaying and his studies, his reputation grew stronger and stronger. Just as it was time to show the results of his training, he received shocking news. He exclaimed, What? The neighboring territory under Baron Parker has declared war to seize ownership of my copper mine? The merchant confirmed it. That's right, sir. Dale rubbed his chin in confusion. In this world, the borders between territories and nations aren't clearly defined, but for a low-ranking noble to dare challenge a high-ranking one is unthinkable. The merchant reported this while taking a letter from his pocket. If you refuse to hand over the mine and accept the declaration of war, the Count Brandon Book has sided with the Baron, and with this letter, he is prepared to send the Holy Knights of Magdalena in exchange for a share of the mine's profits. Upon hearing this, the father and son immediately understood what was happening. Dale gritted his teeth in anger. So, they want to play it that way? He still hasn't forgotten the humiliation from that day, so we'll make sure they get what's coming to them. Yeah,